I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Awesome. Thank you so much. Packed agenda tonight. So I will be enforcing time limits as much as possible. Even electeds, if any of you are around, 10 minutes, no longer than 10 minutes. And just as efficient with questions as possible. Reps, 2 minutes max, please. And yeah, we'll just keep this party moving. So I don't see any electeds. Anyone on Zoom? No. Okay. Kristen Gonzalez? No. Okay. All right. So let us get started with representatives. Starting with the I have Tiffany Echeverria first here on the list from Ida Velasquez's office.
Good evening, everyone. How's CB2 doing tonight? So I'm going to keep it quick. So I'm going to skip over her legislation. I do have a pamphlet for all of you guys. It'll be in the back of all of the legislation that she has introduced in the 118th Congress. So the FinCEN recording, we finally have a recording out. I sent it over to your CB2 chair and Moria as well. It is on our Twitter. You could check it out on our Twitter. It was actually just released publicly today. So if you want to go through Maury or Antonal or our Twitter, those are some options that you could see the event. As for the Blissfield BET walking tour, it is definitely happening. Yay! But we are still trying to finalize the dates for works out with everyone. So we're trying to keep on track of DEP, saying, hey, all right, let's start moving. What are some dates that we could come together and, do the walk tour of Blissville? Newtown Creek, the comment period closes on the 20th for the East Branch of Newtown Creek. You could email kwan.carolyn@epa.gov. Just wanted to throw that out there. And then there's my sponsored legislation. I'll just say it super quickly. So she has introduced a federal version of Mel's Law, which this law is basically a bill that requires colleges receiving federal funding to create a policy to award degrees to students who had passed away before they had the chance to complete their coursework. Again, my information will be in the back as well of all of the legislation that she has introduced this year and last year. And if you need me, I'll be sitting right there. We could have a little conversation, pull me in the back. Oh, yes.
Your comments are being solicited for, because I'm just not familiar with it.
No, yeah. So unfortunately, I am not the environmental person in the office. That would be Daniel Wiley in the office. So I could get your information and we could exchange. But from what I am familiar with, it kind of goes into the dredging in that area, kind of just saying, all right, what do we want in this area? How deep can we dredge in this specific part of Newtown Creek for cleanup purposes? But I'll get your...
From the Army Corps or somebody of work that they're going to do?
Yes.
Christine, it's for the portion of the creek all the way at the end of the river. So it's for the recent, they're going to be doing remediation on a portion of the creek near Ridgewood. And so this is the comment period for that. It's the federal, I'll get you the information.
Any more questions? Okay, thank you so much.
Time left on the clock. Good job, Tiffany. Next is Evelyn Lee from Congresswoman Grace Meng's office.
Hello, good evening, everyone. My name is Evelyn Lee from Congressman Graceman's office. I will start with some events we are having very soon. The first one is next Friday, October 18. We're gonna have a mobile office hour in Elmhurst. It's gonna be Food Bank Corona 93-15 Corona Avenue. And next October 27, it's a Sunday. We're gonna have another skills office. or applying for a first-time passport. And speaking of passport, don't forget that we recently announced that the Department of State has already launched a pilot program that will allow travelers to renew their passport online. So you don't have to mail it out or go to the post office like to mail it out anymore. So that will allow people to reduce their lengthy passport renewal time. But our office is still helping people renew applying for passport or making passport appointments. So if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. And some other updates about what the Congresswoman has been doing. We recently pleased to announce that the Congresswoman has secured 3.8 million grant for Local 3 Electricians Union in Leicester, which is for clean energy workforce development in Queens. And this will allow Local 3 to open a job training facility and expect to create 490 jobs and retain an additional 2,870 jobs. And also the Water Resources Development Act of 2024 has passed in the House. This bill is Congresswoman's bill, and then this will allow the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to spend up to 190 million to fight the flooding issue in Queens. I know this is also a big issue in our area, in the CB2 area. So we are very pleased to do that. And this will address the water and the waterways infrastructure and improve stormwater management. So this bill is now moved to the Senate for approval, and we'll keep you guys posted. Just one last thing, we already announced this last month. We also have a VA intake day coming Tuesday on October 15. And I'll leave the flyers back there, and I will be sitting over there. So if you have any questions, please come reach me. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Evelyn. Next is Mercedes Jennings from Senator Gianaris' office.
Good evening, CB2. Thank you so much again for having me. I'm Mercedes Jennings. I'm Community Liaison for State Senator Michael Gianaris. Just a few updates. On Monday, October 7th, the senator announced that he was able to secure $6 million to Mount Sinai, located on 30th Avenue in Astoria, Queens, to build a more efficient and bigger ICU unit. They needed one for a very long time. A lot of constituents that live in the Long Island City, even Sunnyside and parts of Woodside, do use that hospital. So this is a really great accomplishment, and they are starting to build very soon. So just wanted to let everybody know that update. In addition to that, the senator has been doing very successful Real ID events. As you know, last month we did it in Maspeth and Astoria at the library on Broadway. And it's been very successful, as well as yesterday. We had the event at Elmhurst Library. We serviced almost about 200, maybe a little over 200 people to get their Real IDs already. Again, I stress it's really important because starting 2025, if you want to travel domestically, and then I also found out if you want to go into certain federal buildings, you definitely need that Real ID. So we're doing one more event that's going to be coming up October 26th at the Ridgewood Library, and then we're going to revamp it again in the spring and try to bring it to the community so you don't have to go to the DMV and get the Real ID yourselves. Other than that, again, please see our office as a resource and support. We're located at 4502 Ditmars Boulevard, and I left our cards over here in the back if you need us for anything. Thank you so much, unless there's any questions. Thank you so much. Have a wonderful night.
Thanks, Mercedes. Next is Shauna Morlock from Kristen Gonzalez's office.
Hi, everyone. I am Shauna Morlock. I'm the Director of Community Affairs for State Senator Gonzalez. She's on her way. She's just coming from another event, so I'll try to make it quick. We're having our monthly office hours event at Astoria House's Community Center with the offices of Council Member Caban, Assembly Member Mamdani, and Congress Member AOC on Monday, October 28th from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. We're coming up on Thanksgiving and actively reaching out to community partners for culturally appropriate food items to distribute to our night facilities as well as migrant intake centers. We're also asking you guys for something. We are collecting budget requests. Legislative session is coming up, and that means that our budget letter goes out in January. So between now and like mid-December, we'd really love to have you guys. If you have any requests, we'd really love to hear from you. I'll be over there with some cards. You can come and grab one from me and email me. I'm happy to set you up with a meeting. We are also working on a couple of letters. The Midtown Tunnel flooding was really horrific. And the idea that they allowed an MTA worker to taste the water in order to figure out if it was salinated or not, really not great. So we're working on a letter trying to the EDC whose subcontractor, punctured the tunnel, as well as the MTA, just to find out what happened and to try to get some best practices going forward. Additionally, we're working with Assemblymember Mamdani's office on trying to get student Omni cards available to like all students and not just the ones that happen to live more than half a mile away from their school. It just really presents like equality issues. So we are also collaborating with Parks and Councilmember Wan's office on the rat situation in Gantry Park. And yeah, that I'll let you guys come over if you have any questions for me. Hi, yes, please. Hi.
So just in regard to the issue with the rats in every city, or our city in particular, our district in particular.
Yeah.
The concern is that in poisoning the rats, we are also killing off birds of prey and other animals. So what is being done to mitigate that?
So there is a pilot program that's being run right now that we requested to happen in our neck of the woods, but apparently it's just in Manhattan. But they have apparently a very super tasty birth control for rats that they're hoping will help to mitigate, the propagation of the rats. So in addition to like more advanced containers, like pizza box containers, because a lot of times those end up on the ground. We're trying to work with Councilmember Wan's office to see if we could get those in Gantry Park as well.
And Shady Park would need some too. But just following up on that. And so maybe this is out there and I didn't read it, but the birth control, has that been tested not to cause harm to the other species?
Well, it's
because I want the hawks to keep breeding.
Yeah. The research that I've done on it, and that, I did hear from the Parks Department, they had said this is in direct response to the poisoning of owls. Like it is, it is meant to be an alternative, like safer option. So I don't know if you would get birth control in your own owl system, but I would assume that people that are smarter than me have figured that out. Yeah, thanks. Yes.
Okay. This is time.
Thank you. Hi. Recently the Transportation Committee was visited by a high school student who is advocating for $5 city bike for high school and CUNY students. Has your office been approached by, it was the Youth Committee of Transportation Alternatives?
We have not. I mean, we do work with Transalt fairly frequently, so I'm kind of surprised that we haven't, but I guess if the issue is that it's a privately owned company and not through the MTA, maybe that's why they haven't, but would be more than happy to collaborate. I think that's a really great idea. Like getting kids on bikes is not only healthy, but also push it. I know this sounds terrible, but like the more children that you have, the more people pay attention to safety, and like safety for all of us is important. But we only have speed, speed cameras like within 1,000 feet of a school, and that's because we value children's safety. And so I think, the more active kids are on bikes, like the better it is for all of us. So I take my 10-year-old around on her bike all the time. So
yeah, thank you. That's very nice to hear, and nice of you to say that. Keep your emails open. We've sent out a letter to the DOT commissioner, but we'd love to get the Senator Gonzalez on board.
I'm more than happy to be a conduit. All right, thank you.
right, thanks, Shauna. Next, we have someone from Assemblymember Steve Braga's office. Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Really nice to meet you. I was at the last CB2 meeting and I'll be attending CB2 meetings moving forward. My name is Jamie. I'm the Legislative Director for the Office of Assemblymember Stephen Raga, so really happy to be here. Have a few announcements that I will try to get through timely. So we have an upcoming event November 2nd, which is a community cleanup in Maspeth in partnership with Maspeth High School. We also just had an event on October 8th with Assemblymember Cruz and JGR's office on the CCRB info session. That's the Civilian Complaint Review Board. Went really well. We also have a community cleanup November 3rd in Woodside. And we also have an intake session with the Department of Buildings at our district office on November 7th. And lastly, we have a nonprofit training session in partnership with the Astoria Worker Project and QEDC from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. at Elmhurst Hospital. That'll be November 23rd. For our mobile office hours, we have a few coming up. So we just had one on the 11th, which is tomorrow. Sorry, it's tomorrow. It's going to be Woodside Northern Boulevard train station. On the 14th, we'll have another mobile office hours. That'll be again in Woodside, Roosevelt Avenue and 61st Street. We'll have one on the 17th in Maspeth, the Starbucks right off Grand Avenue. So the MR is right there in the Q58, Q59. And on the 23rd, we'll have one in Elmhurst, Grand Avenue between 45th Avenue and Whitney. So really excited to be working with you all. I left one of my business cards up there, but I have more in the back and happy to take any and all questions. Okay, amazing.
Thanks for being here. Does the assembly member have an update on the pigeon dropping situation?
So definitely please flag it with 311 and then immediately email it to me. I'll follow up to see with the cleanings just so we can keep flagging it. Unfortunately, as you all probably already know, the city is very data driven. So the more 301 requests we can get in, the more email receipts that we have, the bigger the issue that we could be saying, like, this station has a lot of pigeon droppings, so there needs to be a lot more cleaning. So please send me those whenever.
Yeah, I just want to ask you how the assembly member has been involved in the issue around the sex workers on Roosevelt Avenue.
Yes, so there is a task force that's happening with Councilmember Christian's office and I believe Assemblymember Cruz. It's a really complicated issue, as you all are aware of. There's some human trafficking concerns, but there's also a lot of prostitution that's happening in the daylight where, you know, I've heard stories that a lot of community boards, the member has heard this, where really a concern for them. So I do know there's a task force. Our district manager is the one who's attending those meetings, as well as our chief of staff. I'll check here briefly to see if there's any updates on my document, but happy to get your information right after I step down, just so I can connect you with our district manager. Okay, great.
Great. Thank you, Janie. Next is Michael from Greensboro Hall.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Michael Carlier here, the new Director of Community Boards for Queensboro President Davin Richards. So just happy to be here as I make the rounds, as I get started. But first and foremost, just to the Community Board, as we enter the final quarter of 2024 and we approach 2025, we are approaching the new Community Board appointment cycle. So do just want to remind the members to be diligent on attendance and reapplying if you're interested in reapplying. And for members of the public, if you're interested in joining your local community board, definitely keep an eye out for updates from our office as that application does go live around January, February. The exact date is still to be determined, but keep updated for developments as that goes on. I did leave some cards in the back table over there, but I'm also on the side if you want to see me and have a conversation on that regard. Second, I do just want to acknowledge the community board and our local civics for their assistance in helping us ID overgrown medians in need of maintenance and sanitation services. Back in August, the borough president held a press conference
to urge the Parks Department, Transportation, and Sanitation to get together and address these issues of overgrowth and litter strewn across the medians across the borough. With the help of the CBs and the civics, we submitted over 205 locations across the borough of Queens. So our understanding right now is that they're working from northeast and working their way down. So they have addressed a couple dozen locations, but still plenty of work to do. So that's a live list that we're working with Deputy Mayor Mira Joshi on. So if there's any locations that we may have missed, feel free to flag it for us and we'll make sure it gets up there. And yeah, October is a busy month for the Borough President's Office. So just gonna run through some events that are going on in our office. But if anyone wants information, feel free to see me as well. So October 13th, we're having a women's health fair from 2 to 5 p.m. That's at the Edwards David Center in St. Albans. October 15th, we're hosting a virtual parent advisory board meeting. That's at 6 p.m. via Zoom. October 19th, we're hosting an LGBTQ resource fair and expo. That's going to be at Queensborough Hall, 12055 Queens Boulevard in Kew Gardens. On the 21st, we're also hosting a college and opportunity fair, again at Borough Hall. That's going to be from 4 to 7 o'clock. So if there's any parents who have high school seniors, high school age kids who are interested, please feel free to RSVP. And finally, October 23rd, we're hosting our Halloween family film night, again at Borough Hall. We're gonna have a screening of Beetlejuice. So great fun. Looking forward to seeing some of you there. Again, you can RSVP to any of these events at our Borough Hall website. That's queensbp.nyc.gov. And generally, if you have any questions, feel free to catch me here, but time allows, I'll take some now as well.
Hello, okay. Hi, can you remind me what the age is to serve on the community board? I have my doorman's daughter is very engaged, but she's young and she's looking for some way to get involved. And I promised I'd help. And I'm sort of starting there, but I'm wondering if there's even something else, some other way she could get involved.
Yeah, I believe the age is 18, but if there's different avenues that she's interested in getting involved in, we also have a Queens General Assembly made up of several nonprofits and advocacy groups. So if you'd be interested, we can have a side conversation on that.
Okay, so I'll get in touch with you. Thank you.
For sure.
16?
Just a quick clarification question about the median program. It's weeding and like litter removal, right? Not like street safety improvements, bioswales, or capital projects.
Yeah, so not so much capital projects, more so in stuff such as litter, things that have been lodged or damaged through like damaged gating, rusted gating, litter overgrowth as well. So mainly maintenance operations.
Got it. Thank you.
All right. Well, thank you so much, everybody. Thanks.
Thank you, Michael. Welcome to this. Welcome to the show. And in case it's your first time, I was easy on the timer. Next is Asif Ali. No, you're good. Okay. All right. Yeah. So we have our elected guest. Yeah. Senator Kristen Gonzalez.
You can do it sooner. Hi everyone, how are you doing? Good. It's really nice to be here. I just wanted to come by because I know that the year is winding down and we're preparing for Albany, and I want to make sure that if you guys have any questions, able to be here as much as possible. But before I take questions, I just want to give some brief updates. I'm sure you heard last month. We spent a lot of the summer and the fall focusing on community events, from family days, community fairs, but also giving out backpacks. And this year we gave out about 1,200 backpacks throughout the districts. We were really proud of that. We've been continuing to do our mobile office hours. We do them in Astoria houses. The next one is coming up on 10/28. We also had some shredding events. We are hearing the demand for them, so we will keep you posted. We're looking to schedule another one right here in Queens. And then as we continue to prepare for session, we had a couple of bills signed, which we're really proud of, including one to rename a subway station in honor of Baruch, and are currently taking any recommendations for next year's priorities, both legislatively, but also in terms of budget requests. So I think I see some familiar faces in the room where we have funded organizations, both capital and discretionary funding. We want to get a good sense of how much need is in the district so that we can make sure we're bringing that back in next year's state budget. So please don't wait, reach out to us. I'm going to shout out our incredible community affairs director, Shauna, who is sitting over here. We should give her, she does a ton of work for the office. So definitely give Shauna some love, but also give her any requests that you have or may need in the next fiscal year. Briefly, in terms of community issues, we had a major win recently with McGinnis Boulevard. Yeah. For those of you who, McGinnis, I know this is part of North Brooklyn, but just for context there, it was a massive street redesign that, the Department of Transportation, the city level, had recommended a road diet for, and the mayor single-handedly had intervened to prevent that road diet from happening. And so after years of organizing and having been part of this effort for some time now, we finally got that road diet and are going to see a massive improvement in street safety there. And the reason I bring that up here is because we know that street safety is a concern in Long Island City. It's certainly a concern right here in Sunnyside. And so we're going to continue to fight these fights and prove that we can have a lot more of a say and a lot more power in that process. And on that note, another issue that we're focusing on is the Midtown Tunnel, which is somewhat transit related. I represent the Midtown Tunnel on both sides. We are following up with the city to see what happened, how we can prevent it in the future, and am incredibly concerned about the recent reports and confirmation of the way that they found out the leak was coming from the river, which was having an employee drink the water. So we can do a lot better as a city. We know we can. I know I'm almost laughing because it is so absurd that that's where we are, but it is very serious, and it's certainly not how we should be treating our workers. And so we are following up with letters there. And I think, again, really briefly, in other parts of the district, we are fighting for hospital access. We had a closure of Mount Sinai Beth Israel, so focused a lot this summer on maximizing the amount of healthcare access in that part of the district, knowing that Queens will also be affected, including Elmhurst Hospital. And then finally, I just want to flag in terms of housing, for those of you who were, and I know this board keeps up quite a bit, concerned about the rent guidelines board increases. Those increases kicked in on October 1st. So if you are having neighbors who are struggling with the increases or have questions about what it means, please, please, please send them our way. Our office is always here to be a resource. So I'm going to stop there, and I'm happy to dig into anything that I talked about or answer any additional questions about things we may not have covered. Yeah, thank you so much.
Hello, Senator. So I actually wanted to, would you mind speaking a little bit of Proposal 1, the amendment, since the election is coming up, and I think a lot of people don't really read these?
Yeah, that's a great question. So this November, flip your ballots over. I know it sounds intuitive. It is not. And also, I know the folks in this room, you are all already civically engaged, so I am preaching to the choir. Tell your friends who don't show up to these meetings to flip their ballots.
because I've had a lot of friends forget to do so. And on the back, you'll see Prop 1, which is the Equal Rights Amendment. And that is a critically important amendment to our state constitution to codify our right, for example, to an abortion. And I can tell you, even though we live in a state that is incredibly progressive on this issue, there are still gaps that we have. And in my first session, I passed a bill to protect the private health data of any person coming to New York to seek their right to an abortion. So there is, thank you. So there is still a lot to do, and we won't be able to do any of it to make our state a sanctuary for abortion rights and more and equal rights without passing this. So please spread the word. And then you will see some other things underneath that. You'll see props 2 through 6. I cannot tell you how to vote on that in this capacity. But I guess I can share that there have been some concerns raised about the outsized power that would give our mayor. So, certainly happy to provide resources to understand or how, to see what those are. But yeah, thank you for the question. I appreciate it. Any other questions, comments, things you want to see us working on? Amazing. Okay, great. Thank you so much. And if you would, I see one more hand we can talk to. Okay, yes, offline. This was quick. Thank you guys so much. Okay, thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Senator. Next is Chris Cardone from this lovely institution, SES.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. My name is Chris Cardone. I'm the CFO here at Sunnyside Community Services. Thank you. And we have a few announcements to share with you tonight. First, the Sunnyside Post Mile Run Walk event. This is a family-friendly event raising funds for all of our programs. These programs benefit individuals of all ages. The event will be held on Saturday, October 26th. Begins at 9:30 a.m. and begins at Skillman Avenue and 43rd Street. I have some flyers here, and I'm putting them over on the table for anybody who's interested. Oh, you did great. Next, Sunnyside Community Services is celebrating 50 years of service to our community this year. Thank you. So we will be holding a gala on Monday, October 28th in Long Island City to celebrate this anniversary. There will be a cocktail reception at our offices in Long Island City. The address is 5241 Center Boulevard, followed by a dinner at American Brass. And I brought some invitations. Those two will be on the table over there next to the flyers for anyone who's interested. And then finally, this week, we welcomed back our students for the ESOL programs. We know how important this is to our community, and we're so happy that we're able to continue our work. We'd like to give a special thanks to Councilmember Julie Wan for helping us to secure funding and bringing these programs back to Sunnyside. Thank you. Yes.
Are you hiring for ESOL teachers?
Yes, we are. That's a great question. So if anybody here is interested or knows somebody who's interested, please reach out. We would, love to begin a conversation with anybody who's qualified, who's interested in working for a great organization. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, I think that's everyone from the elected officials, reps, and our community partners. Next, we'll move to public comment. Barry Druss. Do you want to comment? Are you commenting about one of the other topics we have coming up later on tonight, or is it a general comment? Are you commenting on one of the things one of our agenda items tonight, or is it just a general? Yep, come on up.
Hi, everybody. My name is Barry Druss, and I'm an advocate for better transportation. Our transportation system is under a lot of stress. We're building more and more density, especially in Manhattan and in our neighborhood. That creates more traffic, more delays, longer travel times, and we need better transportation. Unfortunately, the MTA can't pursue congestion pricing. It was turned down, and they're strapped for dollars. We need to build a lot of infrastructure to take care of the demand, and we're not doing it. I would propose we set up a bond to create bus rapid transit and fund it for neighborhoods that are not served by mass transit out in the outer boroughs, so they can get into Manhattan. That can justify congestion pricing. That is a financial means of creating the revenue base for better transportation. The proposals I have are one, Sunnyside Yard train station, which would be a regional station, excuse me, that would connect Long Island Railroad, Metro North, and the New Jersey Transit, and it would offer regional connections on the railroad. In addition, I'd like to see the bus rapid transit depot located there so we can get there conveniently, and maybe build a park over the top of Sunnyside Yard, and we would have better transportation for a lot of people. Thank you. Any questions? Any questions from the audience? No? Okay, thanks so much.
Thank you, Barry. Nora Dunchev. Okay. No, this is your time. Come. You're totally welcome. Yeah, you have 2 minutes. Take it to give out whatever you want.
First time in all those meetings, so I'm totally unprepared. And I moved to Sunnyside in '92. I've been working as an agent, as a broker since '94. I have my office on 40th and 47th Avenue. And in 2010, my daughter and I commissioned a mural, which is in the wall of my office, that is Sunnyside. We pay for it. It was brilliantly executed because every letter stands for everything that is essential for Sunnyside. However, the artist who done it was a graffiti artist who became a muralist and very, very famous. And meanwhile, the mural dilapidated, and we have to restucco and do the wall. And when I reach out to him to redo it, because the minute we start to restucco the wall, everybody said, like, what's going to happen? There was a lot of pictures. It's in Google Map, is in Sunnyside. They make show on NBC, whatever. It was a famous thing. And now the artist is famous, and he turned around and said, I can do it, but I want more money. He done around 65, and of course he's brilliant. And he said, most of the things I've done with GoFundMe, people give $10, $20, whatever. So the reason it's here, it's to promote that. I've been told that I can come, and that's all.
Thank you. No, this mural is important, so thank you for speaking about it. Oh, sorry. What's the GoFundMe called? Yeah, I think it's called Help Restore the Sunnyside Mural, right? But it's, your name is attached on the GoFundMe, right? I think your last name is in there. Okay, great, awesome, perfect. Stephen Weiner.
Thank you so much. I'm Stephen Weiner, and I appreciate the opportunity. I've lived with my family on 43rd Street and 47th Avenue for the last 42 years, since 1982. We own a house there, and we've been interested in the community. I've been active in some community respects. And I also have a profession. For a living, I work as a wills attorney. And one issue that I found in the community that has affected people is there are people who are not married, and one of the people in the couple passes, even after a long term. And the way the law is set up, there's no inheritance right. And I had to deal with that tragedy where somebody passed, and I had to explain there was a civil union, but there wasn't actually a marriage, and the civil union didn't confer any inheritance rights. So that could be very tragic. But another public issue I wanted to talk about that I heard about the ballot, there is something I think it could be a source of confusion. I think people should definitely be aware of it. If you look at the ballot that's coming up on November 5th, there's an item for a race called surrogate. That's what it says, just surrogate. And many people think of in vitro fertilization. That's their first reaction. I've had people tell me this when they hear that word. But actually, the race that's on the ballot, and what it's referring to is a surrogate judge. That's a judge who has offices in Jamaica at Sutton Boulevard and has a 14-year term. So I just want to clear that up, because I really do believe people in the community, people maybe voting for the first time, young people, other people, they're not going to know what that one word surrogate means. And they're going to be in the voting area. If they haven't been told by anybody who's more knowledgeable, it's about a judgeship that lasts for 14 years, they're going to have a hard time. Thank you. Stephen Weiner, Sunnyside resident. Yeah, let me say something about that.
Does this qualify as electioneering?
No, because what I did is tell people an issue of understanding a ballot, and I didn't talk about any candidates. If you'd like to, I would be happy to talk about that, but I wouldn't use the public comment section to do that.
Yeah, you didn't technically mention pro or.
I didn't mention anyone who is a candidate. I didn't say anybody is a candidate.
Yeah, look. Excuse me, hello.
Yes, go ahead.
Oh,
Go ahead.
yeah, you told us what the surrogate by implication isn't, but you really didn't say what the surrogate does. And if I'm correct, it has to do with evaluating estates, it's not at the very beginning of life, but at the end. Am I correct?
Absolutely. The answer is a surrogate deals with estate issues when people die, wills, trusts. It's called probate when a will is brought in, and administration when there is no will. But that court also deals with guardianship for the developmentally disabled and some adoptions. So these are all important issues, and it is highly specialized. It does not deal with generalized legal issues like personal injury or crime or constitutional rights. It's very specialized. Thank you for the question.
Thank you, Stephen. Bill Kregler. No electioneering. Frank, you want to talk about LSE ramps, right? It's unrelated to that? Oh, yeah. So you want to wait till, can you wait until we get to that? After, please. Okay, oh, no, all right, fine. Yeah, come.
Good. All right. For those who don't know me, my name is Bill Kregler. I've been up at this podium several times over the last many years. Currently, we're in a city that's deteriorating tremendously, our quality of life. We have a corrupt administration that compares itself to Tammany Hall now. I mean, there's no argument about that. And our state and our country is not doing it that well either. Our borders, homelessness, violence in general, gun violence in particular, whether we'll have Social Security in 10 years or not. the simple thing I want to just say to everybody, you know, things can't change unless you want them to change, you know? This time in November, we'll know where our country's headed, you know? And all I can tell you this, ladies and gentlemen, is don't reward failure because we will be condemned to repeat it over and over again. Thank you.
Thank you, Bill. Frank.
Hi, everybody. My name is Frank Wu. I'm a local resident in Long Island City. I'm the president of the Court Square Civic. I'm just testifying regarding a 2018 rezoning that occurred, which promised the neighborhood several things, including the creation of a privately maintained public space in an increasingly dense part of LIC. Since that zoning was repassed, the developer's been working pretty closely with the community in good faith, presenting publicly, coming to the events, putting in the money in to basically create a dog run, a pickleball court, and a children's playground. I'm testifying today because we're literally inches and go to getting this done, and we're urging the government agency DOT to basically work in good faith to close the final legal agreements. Tonight, you'll hear from the architect on the firm to talk about the space, how it's basically shovel ready to go. And I just hope the community board can listen and support and to provide friendly pressure on DOT and other stakeholders to actually get the space created and started in January next year. Thank you so much. Yeah. Any questions or nothing?
And Frank, welcome back. Frank was a board member up until what, 23, right? So welcome back. Good to see you. All right, let's move on to our presentations. First is the LIC underline and our partner staff. Do you have screen sharing and everything?
Get started while I get the presentation. Yeah, I'm good. You don't need the, oh, there you go. JS, there we go. Here. Right. Yeah, you're going to do the quick question. Be allow. We're good. That's Debbie, right? Debbie. No. Go ahead. Yeah, he needs to. If you allow me, I can. Hold on. Thank you very much.
All right, I'll start with introductions while we sort out the tech piece. My name is Nick Petnati. I'm Deputy Director of Urban Design for the New York City Department of Transportation. I'll keep it very brief on my end and introduce the team, but we're excited today to present with the project team this exciting open space project. This is a pretty unique project for us as an agency, working with a project team like this, a set of developers, design team, as well as nonprofit. So we're excited to be able to bring this to you to get feedback. We are in also, just as a bit of context, the midst of the Public Design Commission review process as well. We've submitted some initial designs that you'll see today, exactly what you'll see today, actually. And so we're excited to go through that process and incorporate their feedback as well. With that, I'll turn it over to Ed Wallace, who's been representing the project team, to give you a little bit of history, and then to Jay to go over the design. Thanks all.
Thank you, Nick, and good evening, everybody. My name is Ed Wallace. I am the lawyer, but long ago, I was a city council member, so I am very appreciative of being back in front of a community board. We're here tonight to show the collaboration that Frank asked for, which is DOT, which owns the land. My client was the developer represented here, American Lion, who acquired air rights for affordable housing and convinced the city, along with Court Square Civic and the council member of the day, to create this exciting open space under the ramps of the Ed Koch Queensboro Bridge. With that, I'm here to answer any questions from the history of how we got this far, but we're almost there. And that's what we're here tonight to sort of go the last mile, or I guess it's the last third acre, actually. With that, Jay Valgora is the project designer. He's going to give you some exciting pictures. Obviously, we want reaction to that before we head for the Public Design Commission in the coming months. Thanks. Good question.
Yeah, have you been able to remove the DOT parking there yet?
Yes. Yeah. I think one of the great achievements that we have to give the credit for is that.
Yeah, so the NYPD parking that was there has been removed. There is still some active construction happening with the Queensboro ramp, so there's some staging and whatnot that's going on, and there will be construction of the site as well. But the parking has been taken out so that as a good first step, and we're excited to see the next.
Yeah, please.
All right, well, I'm really honored to be able to show this to you tonight. There's been a huge amount of work. My name is Jay Valgora, and I'm a partner in Studio V Design and Planning. We're an architecture and design firm with my partner, Kathy Chan. I'm so excited to be able to show you things like this. I'm gonna have to go relatively quickly because they've given me 10 minutes, and we've worked so closely with city agencies, elected officials, your council member, Department of Transportation, local businesses, entrepreneurs, Court Square Civic Association, community groups, nonprofits. That's been really essential. And we've gotten so much helpful input from so many people really over the last several years. And I'd love to show you where we are tonight because we're excited and we think we're in a special place. So first of all, this is the location. I think this is pretty obvious. Like here's Greater Queens and here's where the site is. It's obviously in Long Island City. And we zoom in and here you can see, again, it's like these little kind of red lines over there, but it's really right up against Sunnyside Yards. Zooming in a little bit further, it's about an acre of property, and it's really at Jackson Avenue and Dutch Kills. It's next to Purvis. It doesn't front onto Purvis, and then it backs up to Sunnyside Yards. Some pictures probably help illustrate the point a little bit better. So the first view to the left is, looking down Dutch Kills Street. And then you can see sort of looking across through it. And there's two bridges. One is over the street, and that's outside the area that we're dealing with, although it's right adjacent to it and provides access to it. And the second is the 1 acre lot next to it that fronts onto Dutch Kill Street and has one of these diagonal bridges that kind of goes over Sunnyside Yards along it. So there's really two bridges side by side. Here's a couple more views that just sort of set the stage. You can see it's an unusual space. We're kind of under the highway ramps, and yet there is a lot of open area and sunlight in between them. As a matter of fact, the next slide, you'll see that too, where you really do get some of these open spaces. And we looked at which areas were in shade, which areas were in sun, even how we deal with plants and things like that. And this is, of course, still going through a public process as we're working with everyone, but we have received a tremendous amount of really helpful input from the community over the course of the last, 3 years of working on this. So now this is a plan, and I'll go relatively quickly, and you can start to see where the space is. And this also shows there's an adjacent development next to it. So that's the tower. And that's the client who's created the nonprofit that's actually helping to fund this, which has all been set up in the past. And then this has some of the details on the funding. And so this just describes, how the funding was overall structured for the project. There's been a lot of discussion about that. So to make sure that the project can be constructed and built, to make sure that it can be maintained over the next 15 years. And a lot of people are doing a lot of hard work in order to make sure we kind of meet those goals. Here's the larger plan. And this plan shows the adjacent buildings. So to the bottom of the slide is Dutch Kill Street. To the left is Sunnyside Yards. We kind of showed the adjacent building because we wanted to show the relationship of the surroundings. So for example, to the upper left is like a residential development. In the middle on the top is Sculpture Center, which is a local arts organization. And we've been really working closely with them and developing a partnership with them where perhaps they could help us with parts of it. To the right, you can see the new development of the one tower that's happening there. And then on the bottom of the slide, you can see some of the adjacent buildings where also some new restaurants and things have opened up. We've been working with all the different stakeholders and shareholders and so forth in order to get their input. So here's the plan that starts to show what it might look like. And Frank brought up some of the points because with feedback from this community, we've heard that a dog run would be a great thing. Dog runs are cool too, not only for people that have dogs, but they make spaces safe because people tend to go there earlier in the day and later in the day. We're creating a children's playground. I have my own family that's in this neighborhood. I've worked in this neighborhood for over 2 decades, and they have young children, and we see the need for more open space and playgrounds. And I think that's going to be really important. We have a really special playground. I'll show you some pictures later. We want to do something really cool that the kids would really like. My kids grew up in the city playing on public playgrounds. Got to do something special for the kids. Third, we're creating some different, recreational things. We talked about pickleball. We have different bike racks. We have furniture. So I'm going to show you illustrations of that, but you can start to see some of that. And then we also have this very special piece with the Sculpture Center where we want to create an art center. And it's not just with them, because they'll help us with other neighborhood arts groups. It's not exclusive in any way. We want it to be inclusive and include many different groups, but they're going to help us with that. Or at least we're working out a partnership with them in order to do that. And they're here tonight too. And they've been terrific helping us with this process because they have the building right next door so they can kind of connect right into it and even help us and have been really a great partner in that. Now, this show is kind of colored in, so it's probably a little easier to see. And you can see we want to do some really beautiful paving patterns. We want to create color. We want to create something that's really vibrant. And so I'll take you into the individual elements, and maybe if I point here. So here's, let's see, can you guys see with the, yeah, here we go. Oh, thought I had it. So here's the dog run at the end. So here's Dutch Kill Street. Here's Jackson Avenue. These are the adjacent buildings, which kind of backs up to it. Here's Sculpture Center, which normally opens on Purvis, but it can open directly into the back. And so we're talking about creating an opening there so that they could also kind of open up the new restaurants that have gone in. So we wanted to include those. This is an adjacent site that's meant to be developed as an event space. So we're showing that in the future. And this is an adjacent residential development. So we really want to look at how you activate it and how we can make it really, work really well, because the main frontage is here on Jackson and the other frontage is here on Dutch Kills. Here we're creating a space where there could be outdoor dining or restaurants, kind of cafes and things like that. Here we're creating bike racks. This is the children's play area. These are the pickleball courts. Here's the dog run. And then this underneath one of the bridges here, we'll show you pictures of this, is the walkway that kind of leads you back. And it also kind of creates a path and a trail and lighting patterns and things. I'm gonna show you all that relatively quickly. Here's a view. This is sort of the before and after, if you will. So this is over by Jackson Avenue, and that's looking in towards the site with the elevated highway there, Dutch Kills to the left. Oops, and that's the after. So again, before, after. So we're doing special paving patterns. We're creating furniture. We're using certain kinds of lights here. So this is kind of creating a path that leads you into it. There's a seating on the right here, which could allow for outdoor dining and so forth. Here's a before. Sorry to go quickly, but I want to make sure I show you guys everything. Now we're looking towards the Sculpture Center. That's their building. You can see their sign on it, but it's, yeah. And they've been great. And here's their, the back of their building. So it doesn't currently open to it, but they have a courtyard here, which is really cool that they use for art installation. So we think we can make an opening in there, and then we can really open this up, and we're taking down the fence over at this part. And this can create a really open area center for the arts. And, we're hoping, and we've had discussions with them, they might be able to program it and include some art within that, but we would also make it flexible so that other organizations or forms of performance or events or installations, we see it could be very flexible, used by a variety of different neighborhood groups. We're also showing some planting on either side, kind of like framing this kind of sculpture garden or court or art court. And so there's limited places where we can do planting, and they have to be above the ground because we're not going into the ground as per the requirements with DOT, but we can kind of mound up the soil there and contain it and do some really nice planting on either side to create some greenery. Again, the next before slide here. So now we're looking down towards Sunnyside Yards, and we're very excited. So this is a playground. Now we're working on the exact design, and we're thinking about like which animals we might use. We're partnering with this really wonderful playground design company who's done a few things in New York City. They're called Monstrum, but they use like recycled wood, and they create really wonderful animals, and they do many different kinds. Each one is sort of unique. And at first we were kind of playing around with waterfowl here because this used to be a wetlands, but we're kind of thinking maybe we're getting a dragon vibe here. So that's one thing we're looking at, which might be kind of fun. And we thought the kids might really like that. So we're going to be continuing to develop that. We welcome input, but we thought that might be really cool. And we think that would be a really special design feature. It also has like soft rubberized floor material here to protect the kids and things like that too, which is really important. Again, continuing. So here's a view. Now we're at the other end. We're sort of at Sunnyside Yards looking back. So we're looking sort of towards Jackson Avenue, if you will, right? And this is the after. So you can see now the dog run is right in the foreground. We'll create some topography with the dog run, meaning like we can kind of like create a little artificial hills for the doggies to run around on. We use artificial turf, which is more sanitary. It's easy to clean. And we're working closely with DOT to see if we can, we want to make sure that we mitigate odors. There's ways you can do that. There's ways to keep it clean. And so we're in the process of doing that right now because we want to have a state-of-the-art dog run. There's been really high quality dog runs lately. You can see the playground beyond. You can also see we're looking at catenary lighting, suspending that in between the two, and demountable fences so that they can still access and maintain the bridges, but that we can contain the dogs and the little kids. And then this is a view further over by the building. So this is the new tower that's under construction there. And this is an area where we're creating kind of a picnic area. Sometimes we call it a beer garden. Sometimes we call it a picnic. It'll depend on the final programming that's worked out with everybody. But we can create some really wonderful picnic tables and a place for people to sit and to eat and things like that. And then finally, this is sort of the grove in the back where we show some lounge chairs and some additional planters. And that's most of the design. And then we just have other examples where we wanted to show, these are just pictures, not of ours, but that show like how colorful paving has been done and to show that it can be done in an effective way and be beautiful and be easy to maintain. Or we're looking at in the sculpture garden, maybe using gravel there because we felt it was a cool surface. We want to make sure that's accessible. A little bit of paving only around kind of the dining area. We want to use colorful furniture. So these are some of the examples of tables and chairs and things where we can do some bright color to give it a little bit of pop under there. This is a really cool, very sturdy picnic table that we've chosen that's kind of a little bit more hip than the picnic table, I used to use, or these are examples of other furniture. These are all also used throughout the city. So we wanted to make sure we picked stuff that was durable and would look good and be kind of, friendly. So these are some kind of like lounge chairs. These are details of the planting. It shows how we do it above the asphalt. And so that it, can be contained. And we have these really beautiful kind of wild green plants almost done. And then we're looking at how we can also capture some of the stormwater from the bridge. This is an example of a project on the right called the Bentway in Toronto, where they've been really successful in using that in order to kind of slow down the stormwater and treat it. Examples of the fences we're using. And the playground, and they have much cooler pictures. Like these are some of the ones we picked, but these show some of the kind of like animals and things they do with the playground partner that we're working with. And we think this could be really fun. So we'd love to work with them. And we're nearly done. And here's some examples of the latest state-of-the-art dog runs that use those materials I told you about, AstroTurf, a little bit of topography, and using the latest kind of details. We're making sure that we choose examples that will work well and that have been done throughout New York City. Finally, lighting. Now, the space isn't generally used at night, and I'm going to leave it to others to figure out, in DOT, like what time it's going to be open. And we're designers, I can't say, but even now, like it gets dark a little bit earlier, as we're getting into the latter part of the year. So we'd love to create, not only will they be the bigger lights, because there are some that are there now, but I'd love to create something with more scale. So these are catenary lights, and these are like kind of like string lights, but they're, higher quality versions. And we're working with DOT to finalize these elements and, presenting it to you guys to get input. But we think that that would create some real ambiance to it, and it would be kind of nice and give it a little bit more scale. And finally, images of Sculpture Center. And this is their space, which is adjacent to it. And we're really excited to work with them because I think that, it would be really fun to do something that really ties in, because the arts and cultural scene in LIC is so important. I think we have to give a place for that, right? And that's what I got for you guys. And so in conclusion, we're doing the community board review. We're looking to finalize the license agreement. We're getting so much support and help and input with that. We have to go to the PDC, the Public Design Commission. And then we're going to be working with them to cap the site. They're going to be putting a fresh asphalt cap on it and doing permitting. And these are our next steps because we want to make this a reality for you guys. Thank you. Oh, council member, thank you.
Thank you. Good evening. So it's been a long road here. It was 2018 when this was announced. Yeah, at the community board. And I know many of you were very active in making sure this was getting designed correctly. And I know Frank Wu was here from Court Square Civic. He had to go home because he has his son with him. But I just want to give a special thanks to Court Square Civic, as well as our community board members, all the arts groups who participated, as well as community members who participated, to see this year and year again and year again be pushed back. But I know that we are collecting, with the help of Ms. Lisa Deller, all of the community board agreements that we have from prior projects for land use. And this is one of them. So we are seeing things move forward that should have been, the deadline should have been met a long time ago, which was the schools, Court Square Elementary School, that we just had another update from them. We're trying to move that forward as well. The Hunters Point Parcel C school that is now breaking ground this winter or this fall. So you'll all see that happen as well. And now we're finally getting LIC ramps, and this was really a big push during Innovation Queens. And thank you, Miss Lisa, for reminding us to get this done, and Frank as well. Like the minute I said I was running for office, he was like, "Sit down. Here's a presentation that we had made at Court Square Civic." So I really want to thank them, and also American Lions. They've actually been really great partners. There is nothing legally binding them to doing this for our community, and the amount of money that is allocated for them to really move forward. And right now, seriously, thank you so much. Right now, through Innovation Queens, we're able to get the NYPD to move. And now we're just waiting for DOT to move their vehicles as well. But I do believe that DOT is also going to be good partners to our community. And as you saw, we're having the community board review today. This is extremely important because it allows us to get their license agreement with DOT. We've been going back and forth, getting permits approved, and now we want to get this license improvement, and we want to get the final approval from PDC, and we want to go into DOT permitting. But we want this process to move forward. So I really applaud you for being here and making sure this moves forward at the community board level, because this will allow us, if we move forward on time. You promised 6 to 8 months for construction to be complete, correct?
That's the plan.
And many of you who live in Long Island City, you know that Court Square has 0 green space. The only sad park we have is the Court Square Park, which is really for the court. And we've taken over and we're gonna have some space, but we really need a playground for our children. There's a lot of children there, which is why we need the extra school seats. But we also need a dog run. And now there's this big craze about pickleball. Someone will have to teach me how to play this sport. But all of these needs are directly from your input. So we really thank you. And please work with me to make sure DOT is moving this along, because our American Lions partners want this to move forward, and so do we. So we just need DOT to give us the final approval so that we can go into construction and have a new playground that we can all hang out at and have new arts. Sculpture Center is willing to open it up for other artists as well, for performance and for sculpture and still art, everything in between. So we're really excited for this. Thank you so much.
Okay, 10 minutes of questions. Steve, you had up first.
Yeah, it's a beautiful design, Jay, as usual. You've got a great architect, you got some great ideas. Just one thing following up, I concern myself with maintaining the space after it's built. Who is going to be responsible for maintaining it?
So per the agreement that's in the offering from DOT, part of that budget was set aside to do 15 years of maintenance. We formed a not-for-profit so that other enlightened property owners nearby and maybe some good citizens would also over time help. But for the get-go, for building it and maintaining it for 15 years, that money's literally in the bank, the city's bank.
But it'll be maintained quasi-private.
Yeah, the maintenance, DOT is the owner and the master, and we will have to do what they tell us to do. They have to be able to get up and down from the bridge when repairs are necessary. But for the ongoing maintenance, clean it, make sure it's what it should be. That's on the not-for-profit that we're for.
Also, just for like the real tea, because we're all family here. Back in the day, when this first started, we were under the assumption that LICP would actually help with maintenance. But that is not the case right now. But it doesn't mean that it can't be the case in the future. I think we can all work together and have these conversations to further the discussion of how we're going to maintain this long-term in partnership with our private partners, as well as our nonprofit and the city government as well.
And council member, just to give them their props, they stood by us on the night before the vote of the council and said they would do it. We were very understanding when, just for liability and other reasons, we had to step in. So it's a cooperative, collaborative struggle.
Yeah, Charles Yu is right there, so we'll definitely be talking to him more.
Sorry, go ahead.
One piece on the maintenance front from the DOT side, we've been working really closely with Jay to make sure that the design that you're seeing really adheres to city standards as much as possible as well. So we know that it's tried and true, it's durable, it's things that, you know, we know that have been successful across time as well.
Also, I have to give a really big thank you to DOT, because this is not normal for DOT to allow this to happen on their land. We're basically using DOT land DOT land as park space, like this is unheard of in the city, and they are being great partners as well, allowing us to have an alternative use that DOT land normally wouldn't be used for. So thank you.
Christine, then Tom.
Thank you very much. And this is indeed super needed space. I just have two questions. And one I remember discussing several years ago when I was involved in some of the early reviews and discussions with the board. I don't see any public restrooms in your plan. And that's definitely part of the city standards. So I certainly hope they're going to be
So,
there.
Yes, very, very important. So one of the reasons why we're having discussions with Sculpture Center is because they've actually volunteered to allow us to use their bathrooms as part of this space, which is why they're opening up their fencing and integrating it. So we're looking at funding, and that's one of the earmarks for funding, to look for maintenance of the bathroom itself within Sculpture Center to be used for this park.
But those would only be open when Sculpture Center is open?
It'll be regular hours, the same way a park's bathroom is not open 24/7.
No, I understand, but I assumed that Sculpture Center was more limited, but maybe I'm wrong.
They've been very flexible and they're trying to be good partners. So we'll let you know when it's confirmed of exactly which hours it'll be.
Okay. The other question or recommendation that I have that I didn't see in your design is that you include some senior friendly seating with arms and preferably some kind of shade structures or in the shade. So that, you know, I mean, it really should be an intergenerational space.
Well, we absolutely design all of our open spaces to appeal to all New Yorkers. And thank you for the comment. I'm sure we could easily accommodate some. I think we probably have some seating with arms, but I will absolutely check that. And we definitely have some of it in shade, because we're actually using even the highway structures actually as shade, as well as some of the plantings. Thank you. So I think that's a great suggestion.
Thank you.
Thank you for your presentation. I'd like to understand a little bit more about what steps are in the plan to eliminate stormwater from entering our sewer systems. Specifically, you mentioned a lot about pavement. Will that pavement be porous in nature, allowing it to enter the ground rather than our overtaxed sewer system? Thank you.
So I'll start in that this is a very complex site. It's all sort of paved as it stands, and there is contamination, we think, below. So infiltrating stormwater in that instance is a challenge. It's not something that we're looking to pursue as part of this project. However, Jay and team have been looking at solutions to slow that water down, to detain it, to try to use evapotranspiration and other treatments. And I'll let Jay speak a little bit more to that. We've done a little bit of that testing as an agency as well. Actually, at this site, there's Gabion planters on the Dutch Kill Street that we did as a pilot to test something very similar. We had a similar pilot in Sunset Park. So we've had some experience on that. Some of the international precedents that Jay mentioned have also gone in that direction. So we're trying to be really mindful given some of the challenges of the site as well.
No, I think you answered really well. We really care a lot about sustainability. We really care about how we deal with issues of stormwater. This is probably not the site where we'll solve the problem with New York, but everything we're doing is going to make it better. So we are creating more green area. We are allowing for evapotranspiration. So it may not be, we're not creating an entire park. We're not doing groundwater recharge here, but we're making it better.
Okay. So first, thank you very much. This is my neighborhood. And as the council member said, there is no green space. So thank you. My question that some know I'm going to ask is there any way that pickleball could be tennis for those of us who play tennis and have to go to Astoria Park to play?
Just like the other parks, we've had a formal engagement process, so there isn't going to be a lot of changes to the design itself, but it doesn't stop you from elongating the actual net itself to play tennis. So you're welcome to play whichever racket you want. And I don't know how to play pickleball, so I'm gladly join you with my tennis racket.
Okay. We'll have a match.
Perfect. Can I just, quick question? You talked about hours of operation. Can you talk about how you would actually close the park?
Sure. So for most DOT spaces, they are open 24/7. Right? We don't close the right of way. I think as the council member mentioned, this is a bit of a unique kind of use of DOT right of way. So we are still working through sort of what spaces might remain open 24/7, particularly the spaces closer to Jackson Avenue that will be a bit more plaza-like versus some of the other spaces like the playground or the dog run or so on and so forth. So not 100% settled on that. Part of that is the agreements that we're talking about and are mentioned, but it is something we're trying to be cognizant of. And I mean, as with many parks, they may say they close at dusk, but they don't actually close everything, right? So there's that kind of balance as well.
Yeah. Thank you for this. Happy to see so many bike racks. Just a question. During the hottest part of the day, is the playground in the shade from the ramps? Because we have an issue with hot playgrounds that are just unusable on the hottest days of the summer here.
Maybe two parts. So first, it is adjacent to the ramp. So part of it is going to be in shade at different times of day, and part of it is going to be in the sun. And I think it's probably a good balance. And second, we do have a rubberized paving material, and we're using lighter colors and so forth, so that'll help. But third, the playground material itself uses a great deal of recycled wood. So that's one of the cool things about Monstrum. And a lot of there's all different playgrounds. And as I said, my kids played on them. A lot of them are metal, and the metal sometimes creates issues. But because we're using natural products and wood, and they even create shade structures because the kids get to hang out in the animals, which is kind of cool. So I think it's going to address that very well. So we seek a balance of shade and sun for comfort. I think it's a great question. So hopefully, I think we found the right balance.
Excellent.
If I may on that, sorry, just on the playground stuff. I'm at Sturgeon Playground at Pier 25 all the time. So, and that is underneath hot sun on, on the west side highway at Pier 25. So I think there's more for Monstrum to work with the natural shade of, where it is. Sheila.
Yeah, two things. One is thank you to the council member for acknowledging the amount of work the community board did with y'all back then, because I know that wasn't mentioned earlier. And then I do have a question about the beer garden, and you mentioned outside dining. That had come up when we were talking about the design back when, that to make sure those are kind of like with Glacial Rock, that the public space is not just made as an addendum to private businesses there. So the private business, like what is the beer garden? Is that just where I can bring my beer from home and sit there? Because that's public space. So if it's going to be privatized, then that needs to be money that goes into the upkeep of the park. And that needs to be a decision by the public, not by the designers.
I can guarantee you the designers aren't deciding that. So, but I'll let the other people speak to it.
Sure. I think it's a very fair point. I think as a DOT, we're obviously interested in making sure that there are sustainable sources of funding coming in to maintain this space, and that may be one of them. I think that's still an ongoing discussion about whether those right now.
It's nice to see you. And yes, you were very energetic in the beginning of this, and we thank you for that. And no, I'm serious, because having been at the council, having seen what this council member is doing to get this rolling, your voices really do matter. There's no answer to your question today because it hasn't been decided. I think what you said is right. Any money that would come onto that side, if there were any sidewalk cafe type money, has to go back into the park. And there are models for that in parks conservancies around the city. So that's a welcome comment. We'll get back to you when there's an answer even being sort of honed in on. For now, it's a concept, I would say. And what you said is going to guide us as to how we think about it, along with the council member, along with the Department of Transportation, along with the developer. Okay, so your voice is heard.
Last question, who wants to go? Hossein or Carisha? You choose. Wait. You gotta choose. Who's gonna do last question? All right, Carisha to close us out. Sorry.
Okay, two quick questions. That nonprofit that you mentioned is a very key element about maintaining the park, as you guys described. So what's the name of that nonprofit? And what's the EIN? No, what's the name of the nonprofit?
We actually have an EIN.
Okay, I'll take the IN.
The name, I don't have it with me.
Okay.
The name is under discussion.
Oh.
Originally, this was the ramps project. When I first got involved, there was discussion of calling it the Underline. Turns out there's another similar project.
So are you not, you're not incorporated yet?
Oh, yeah, no, it's totally incorporated as Friends of the Underline, but that name can change. The name is sort of in discussion with DOT. In terms of the, right, yeah, I mean, in terms of what it's called, that's to be discussed. In terms of what the not-for-profit is called, and you can donate, and I'll get you the donation, it's a Friends of the Underline.
Get the other partners involved to help contribute to that fund, which will be run through that nonprofit. My second comment was the lighting related to maintenance, because all of that lighting, the string lighting, I know is going to be very high maintenance in the long term. So would there be a possibility to have somehow like sidewalk lighting integrated into design somehow, like on the ground? Because I have I'm just anticipating that with the amount of issues that may happen with the string lights at any given time, at some point it might become overwhelming, and then we're all of a sudden going to have like busted string lights that are going to take a while for any maintenance to get to.
Well, two parts to answer your question. First is that all the lighting is actually going to be reviewed by DOT, and we have to meet certain DOT standards. So I'm not overly concerned, because we have to meet a very high and stringent standard of maintenance. And then second, and string lights is like a colloquial term. They're catenary cable lights. So they're actually robust structures that are attached to catenary cables. But like regular people might know it as string lights, but they're bigger and more robust and much more rigorous than that. And LED lighting does have the advantage today that it really requires almost no relamping or maintenance for at least a decade. Once, of course, you put it up and commission it to make sure that it's fully operational. So I think that actually a lot of technology has really moved where lighting, and it's much more energy efficient, as well as much more longer lasting. So we feel very confident we'll be able to address that.
Thank you so much. We do have two more presentations to get to, so although it's really bad. Yes. So any more? We'll end questions there for DOT and our underlying presenters. So thank you so much. I mean, I can't wait to play inside a giant dragon or fish or whatever it is going to be. Thank you. Quick
Okay.
council update
Yes.
from the council
Thank
member.
you so much, Anatole. I just have quick updates. So today was a very exciting day. We just came back from City Hall after passing 3 pieces of legislation to curb corruption in the contracting process. Everything you've been reading in the news with this state of administration from the mayoral side is unacceptable. And as the chair of contracts, we've moved very swiftly to make sure that we are passing legislation to make sure that this does not happen again to the best of our abilities that's under the city charter. So we passed 3 bills today, 801, and 801 requires city agencies to provide prime vendors with a written explanation within 30 days when denying approval of a subcontractor upon a contractor's request. So that sounds a lot of technical language. To break it down, basically what we've been hearing from a nonprofit or any small business or anyone who is doing business with the city, winning a contract, for example, for a shelter, some people were getting denied without any explanation. And someone who has been a long-term standing vendor with, say, Department of Homeless Services for shelters, were all of a sudden denied when they said they did not want to work with a certain contractor that a commissioner or a deputy mayor wanted you to work with without explanation. So now what this will do is you will have a time limit as well as a written explanation on why you were taken away from a certain contract to curb any sort of favoritism or unethical behavior for the city contracts that are worth more than $20 billion every fiscal year, if not more. Yes. Secondly, we also passed Intro 803. This works in conjunction with 801 that I just described, and this now requires the Procurement Policy Board to establish rules allowing vendors or their representatives to submit protests regarding agency procurement action determinations. So on a similar wavelength, what we've also heard from vendors especially our labor unions, is that sometimes, as an example from this year, is that is that still catches me off guard. Is that, for example, Gartner is a large contractor from Texas that was also the same vendor that former President Donald Trump used to build the wall that was then contracted to New York City to do our new migrant shelter contracts. And people said, that's an ethical violation. We don't agree with that, and we don't want taxpayer dollars being used for this. But there was no formal way for us to protest before. And if you were a whistleblower saying, hey, I'm a vendor and I'm seeing behavior that is unethical or corrupt, but I don't want to be the one speaking out, because if I do, my contracts may be at risk from retaliation. So now you can have representation to protect you from that kind of behavior in the case that you want to be a whistleblower or raise your hand to say this is corrupt. So that's 803. And lastly, we also passed Intro 802, which requires the mayor to designate an agency or office to establish guidelines for insurance requirements for food procurement vendors. So this happened because we saw a ton of food waste coming from all of our shelters throughout the city. And that's because a lot of the food was not religiously appropriate or sensitive, or culturally appropriate or sensitive, and people were not eating the food. And sometimes the food was expiring in 2030 in the year of 2024. So it was not edible. And what this does now, it allows our small businesses, like our local mom and pop restaurants on the street, they can now compete for the same contracts as a large catering company that can do it at scale. Because before, if you had a contract with Department of Homeless Services, Department of Health and Hospitals, Department of Emergency Management, they all had a different insurance premium required, which means that if you are a small business owner with a small restaurant and that's the only one you own, there was no way you could attain 7 different insurance premiums to do business with the city. And now that is completely gone, and we will be able to allow our small businesses, like our local restaurants, be the vendors who are winning these contracts to serve food in our local shelters right here in our district. So we're making a lot of progress. You're going to see more bills coming out from the contracts committee. I am also very quickly drafting bills with my general counsel to make sure that we have compliance modernization, because it is unacceptable that we as a city are not having great purview into the contracts that are being signed off, because we don't even have a centralized database where all of our contracts are sitting. Our compliance tools are running on outdated technology that takes 2 days for it to query. It literally takes 72 hours and not in real time. So a lot of these issues are being tackled head on, and we'll have a lot of great updates for you to come so that we don't repeat what we are currently seeing play out at City Hall. Secondly, we have a lot of great news for early childhood education. Through a lot of aggressive advocacy the last few years with our partners all throughout the city, we've been able to gain momentum where we were able to get extra funding to clear the backlog. Because what we saw for early childhood education, especially for 3K, is that we had a glut of extra seats in certain districts where the seats were just sitting empty, but we're getting paid. And then we had districts like ours where we have a lot of young families with so many children, where we had a wait list of children who could not get a spot. So what did we do? We got funding from the city, from the mayor, and we were able to finally open enough school seats for 3K to clear the backlog. So our district now has an additional 135 3K seats in the parts of the district that had the highest amount of wait lists, which is Long Island City, as well as Sunnyside. So we just finished opening up our last set of 30 seats, and we're really, really happy that we were able to do that this year. And we look forward to making sure that all of our numbers for all of our school seats are balanced, and that we have a school seat right by your home where you can go to school. So that's early childhood education. Yeah. Got a lot of updates. Right now, I also want to take the time to recognize that we had a loss in our community. Not too long ago, I think it was last week, when I was notified by the NYPD that we had a unhoused man who lost their life due to natural causes, but also substance abuse at Newnham Park. And that is incredibly heartbreaking. No one wants to wake up one morning and pass by a deceased person who you may have seen, you may not have appreciated them being there, but it was still a living person. So I say this to say there are hotlines that you can call to make sure that if you know someone who's struggling with substance abuse, that they're receiving the help that they need. And two, I know that it's extremely frustrating, but 311 is how the Department of Homeless Services sends out their outreach workers. They have promised me over and over again that within the first 311 report of someone who is unhoused, that they would send out a Department of Homeless outreach worker within 2 hours of the report. So when someone is sent out, they will do outreach and offer them shelter because this is a right to shelter city, and you are going to be able to have a hotel shelter or a different shelter form that is available at the time, but we cannot force people to take that shelter because it goes into our civil liberties. Can you imagine if you're sitting at the park and someone wants to say that you're homeless and now you're being detained by somebody and you're being forced into someplace? Because of those reasons, we can't force someone into a shelter, but it will always be offered to them. But if you see someone who has mental illness or someone who is struggling with substance abuse, or you think they're a danger to themselves or others, please call 988. And that way, or 911. If it's an emergency, always call 911, not my cell phone. I am not Batman. Please do not call me an emergency. That happens sometimes. And I'm glad you have so much faith in me, but I am limited in my capabilities. So call 911 if it's an emergency, call 988 if you think it's not an emergency, but someone could be a danger to themselves long-term. And a medical examiner will come and evaluate, or a social worker, and evaluate their mental health and make sure that they're getting the help that they need. So I want to make sure that we are communicating that out, especially you all are our leaders in our community as our community board members, because I understand there's a lot of frustration right now with the amount of homelessness, but I also want to make sure that we level set with the current executive order that we have, which means that if you are homeless, they spit you out in 30 days if you're a single man, 60 days if you're a family. So even women and children. So throughout the city, we're seeing a huge influx of homelessness everywhere. So if you could just remind yourself, like when you see someone who is homeless, that they are a life, and even if you're annoyed at them for whatever reason, that they could turn out dead the day after because they could get a lot of other risks that are at play for being homeless. Please just remember the humanity. And I just want to also say, you don't know the story behind why they ended up on the street. Even from the fire that we had here, right here in Sunnyside, we still have families that are coming to my office saying, I have been living on the subway for the last 4 weeks now. Because now they can't afford the apartment, or their family no longer wants them, or their friend who has been housing them. And that apartment by A&E still has not gone into construction to rehabilitate their home. So I just ask that you would have grace and patience and call 311 if you want them to have help that they need. And if they are refusing the help, yes, like report it to my office as well, but we aren't trained social workers. Like we can't force anybody into any situation, but we'd be happy to make sure that we also have a nonprofit partner like Breaking Ground go out and try to talk to them as well. I think I will stop taking up too much time because you guys have a long agenda ahead, but I look forward to working with you all for the next
2 questions. All right. Hossein Bhai and Leticia.
Thank you so much, Council Member. It's a lot of good news for our community. We really appreciate it. The question for my side that already passes 3 billion today. I know it's a long hour you're working. So I'm requesting to you support the bill 276. You know, we are fighting for the deactivation for the apps-based company, and many of our neighbors are fighting for their business loss, because when it deactivation, the taxi driver lost their everything because he don't have a choice. So I'm requesting to you support Bill 276. That's the one thing. And the second question, I missed that time, the safety measure for the park. It is absolutely a great project for our community. I want to make sure, because there's a 2 highway 24-hour is a sound problem. So make sure they will maintain in this safety issue. Thank you so much.
Thank you. You said 276? Yeah. About, oh, it says that this is for green roof and solar photovoltaic generating. Okay, but I'll follow up with you after. Oh, and also another good news that I want to make sure that you guys know is the Queens Public Libraries Board has voted to bring back the Court Square Library. And it'll now, instead of being in the city building, it'll be in the Five Points building, which was also a community board agreement that we had to chase down during Innovation Queens, that is now coming into action.
So my question is kind of along the same vein, regarding, I guess it's now on the side of food insecurity for a lot of the people here in Sunnyside. And so I don't want to assume they're homeless, but I know that during my commute early in the morning, there's usually the same individuals who are often asking for food on a particular street on Queens Boulevard. And so I was wondering, you know, what is being done in terms to address food insecurity for a lot of these individuals?
Yes, thank you so much. So within the last 3 years that I've been in office, we've increased our food pantry funding from the city by threefold. So now we had an additional 145,000 added to our food pantry funding, and that goes to all of our local food pantries. So like St. Mary's gets it. We have a list that if you email my office, we could send you both in English and Spanish. And then if you require other languages, we could translate that as well and send it to you, that you could share with folks to let them know that food pantries are open and they are serving food to anybody, no questions asked. And each food pantry is different. Some have hot meals, some have canned food, some have fresh produce. So each one has like its own flavors, but those are available to anyone in our district, especially for those reasons, because we've seen our food pantry lines grow fivefold, especially during COVID.
Thank you. We'll end it there. Thank you so much. All right, our next on the agenda, the public hearing on the BSA application for 5802 Northern Boulevard. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry, we need to join.
Yeah, I'm.
Zoom. Oh, perfect. Debbie, I think she needs
I gave.
okay. Yeah, you're good.
Okay. Good evening, Sandy Anagnostou, representing the applicant and the Office of Gerald Caliendo Architects. And this is a Board of Standards and Appeals application for a variance. I'm joined by Davian Corbett, General Sales Manager of Lincoln Motor Group. And he can answer questions regarding the operation, but I'd like to do a quick presentation. So this is a variance application pursuant to section 7221 of the New York City zoning resolution before the New York City Board of Standards and Appeals for the proposed use variance, which would permit the development of a new two-story automobile showroom with accessory offices, use group 9, actually use group Roman numeral 6 under the recently adopted City of Yes for economic opportunities. And the subject site is located in an R5 zoning district. It's has frontage on 3 streets: Northern Boulevard, which is a 100-foot wide street, 58th Street, and 60th Street. And it's very odd shaped. It's a trapezoidal shaped lot, which is currently occupied by a 1-story commercial building, eating and drinking establishment, which has been vacant for a few decades now. It's on the south side of Northern Boulevard in the Woodside neighborhood. And it's approximately 5,259 square feet. Here's the zoning map, R5 zoning district, tax map. I'll just quickly go through. Some of you may be familiar with the site, but here are some photographs. And it's been available for lease for a very long time, but unfortunately, no one looking to have a restaurant there. And that's understandable because this area is not really pedestrian. It's not an area where there's a large volume of pedestrians. It's mainly improved with many auto-related uses. And historically, this part of Northern Boulevard has been an auto-related corridor, really. So let me jump into the proposed plan. Well, this is the existing one-story and cellar stucco building. There's an existing cellar, what used to be the restaurant with kitchen. Those are the elevations. And then we move to the proposed. So we're proposing a 2-story and cellar commercial automobile dealership. Will be Lincoln Motor Group. And the cellar will be for accessory storage. Then the first floor will be an automobile showroom. And then the upper floor, which is really, it's not a full floor because part of it is open to below, as you could see there. It's for accessory offices, sale offices. Here are the elevations, and we have some renderings, which here's a section, 2 sections through the building. Signage, really keeping it to a minimum. We don't have any flashy signs or anything. So as I go into the rendering, I'll talk a little about the operation. This is rendering looking at 58th Street of the building. We did meet with the Land Use Zoning Committee of Community Board 2, and they made some recommendations, one of which was to provide 2 publicly accessible charging stations. So we're proposing one on 58th Street, as you could see in the rendering, as well as landscaping in these planters. Then this is the looking at 60th Street with more planting. And this is the Northern Boulevard side. So one of the charging stations will be on 58th and the other on 60th Street. These are just some other showrooms where Lincoln has, this would be the first in New York, and this is, they have one in Bethesda, Maryland. So this is the floor plan for that, elevation, some photographs, interior. And then there's another one in Arizona, and that's Sanderson. So a little about the operation itself. This will be basically the showroom here is for new cars and electric cars and some hybrid, correct? So all cars are new. There's no used car auto sales and there's no repair work done on the premises. No maintenance of the automobiles are done at the premises. So this is a very new concept in retail. It's a boutique retail type of automobile showroom where you would go online, look at the model, and then go to the showroom, make an appointment with a salesperson. When you do make the purchase, there are kiosks there. When you do make the purchase, you don't pick up the automobile at this showroom. It's delivered to your home or your business. If the vehicle requires maintenance, the staff would pick it up from your home or business. So that eliminates a lot of traffic, the need for customer parking, and it's really not a high generating traffic use. And this is a new type of model and the first in New York. And they're shifting, Lincoln is shifting to electrical vehicle production and expect half of its global volume to be zero emissions vehicles by mid-decade. They've invested more than $30 billion in electrification. Also, I want to mention this is a minority-owned business, and one of the partners in the business is retired NBA player John Starks, and they would be hiring locally. So this, if approved, would be creating approximately 15 jobs, union jobs and local from the community. Just want to talk a little about Northern Boulevard. This is a land use map, and you could see along Northern are a lot of, in the red, commercial uses, in the gray, in the dark gray, parking, automobile, utility, and then open lots, a lot of which are like used car lots. In this neighborhood map, you can see automobile sales and showrooms in the R5 district. That's in the lavender color. And then in the gray are auto service establishments, auto-related uses in the R5. So you could see all along Northern Boulevard is very much developed with those type of uses, which makes, we think, the proposed use very appropriate for this area of Northern. I can just go through some streetscapes. These are some existing establishments along Northern Boulevard. Auto parts, repair shops, automobile sales establishments. And then you do have housing, of course, but on the side streets, not really on this stretch of Northern. So I guess that concludes my presentation. If there are any questions?
Let's put 10 minutes on the clock, please, Mark. Dr.
Yes, this proposal, excuse me. This proposal sounds very familiar. In what way does it differ from the proposed use that we already rejected, the city council rejected? That's question number one. Number two, you're proposing to sell Lincoln cars. I'm assuming, if I'm not correct, the SUV cars, and because they're electric, they're the ones with the high front end where they put a trunk, they call it a frunk. And these are known to be deadly to people. These are not something we want to have anything to do with in our community. They kill people, they hit people high up on the body. And, you know, we're getting increasing evidence of the danger of this. So those are two questions.
Okay. The first question, there was, I believe, a rezoning application a number of years ago that was denied. This is a different application. This is an application for a variance. So for a variance, the applicant must meet certain findings with respect to section 7221 of the zoning resolution. The A finding is uniqueness. This lot has very unique characteristics in the shape of the lot itself. It's fronting on 3 streets. It's a trapezoidal shape. It requires, because of the fact that it is fronting on 3 streets, it requires 3 front yards. It's located on a major roadway 100 feet wide, which historically has been developed with auto-related uses and is not appropriate for residential use. And providing those 3 front yards and the history of the site would really make a residential development here a hardship, which is and financially not feasible, which is the B finding. And C, neighborhood character, it's very appropriate. Surrounding it, looking at what's existing there, it's very appropriate. The other 2 findings are self-created hardship. This is not a self-created hardship by the owner. This building has been vacant for decades. And so this law was written to provide relief to a property owner who cannot develop the property without a variance. Nothing can be done with it. And minimum variance, this is a use variance. It would be the minimum that the Board of Standards and Appeals would grant. That was the first question, and
So that was the first question. It sounds like it's the same proposal, the same type of dealership. And I know now you call it a variance, but basically it hasn't changed that part of it. But yes, the second part had to do with this. This is where you're going to be selling SUVs.
So we're proposing, first of all, you can look at the plan, very limited number of cars in the showroom. This shows there would not be more than 4 cars in there at one time. And if you look at the rear area, that access area, that's to prevent from any vehicles driving on to Northern Boulevard. This is how they would enter from the side, from 60th and then 58th Street. That's to prevent any traffic, any situation on Northern Boulevard. In terms of SUVs, I am not familiar if they'll be selling those here.
Yeah, so what happens is that the Lincoln currently right now has the hybrid vehicle, so it doesn't have the front space that you referred to as far as with the electric vehicle. So that wouldn't be a concern at this present moment. Laura.
So in the board's resolution to reject the ULURP application 2 years ago, we said we did not want to see any new auto-related businesses on Northern Boulevard. And this has sparked a whole community engagement process called the Heart of the District to consider the community vision for Northern Boulevard. This is a board that has voted for the City of Yes housing opportunity. And this is a residential property in an area where rents are exorbitant and we have a housing crisis. Have you considered any alternative uses for the site since then?
We have looked at or a residential development, but the financial analysis showed that it would be infeasible to build residential here. I'll say this, it's R5, it's been available for decades and no developer has purchased it to build housing there. They could have, nobody did, it's not appropriate. And I understand the need for housing, I do. Rents are out of control. People with families need places to live, homelessness. We need affordable units. But we also need businesses and we also need jobs for people so that they can afford to buy homes or rent homes. This part of Northern Boulevard
has continued.
Disagree, is not appropriate for housing.
In
Other
Queens,
parts-
though, we have
yes.
continued to see traffic violence rise. Serious injuries for all modes, pedestrians, cyclists, and drivers are up 30 to 40% in Queens. We've had a number of fatalities. This community is still mourning the death of a teenager, Jael Zinin, who was killed on the last day of school. What makes you think that this is the place to sell these vehicles?
Well, I'm very sorry about what occurred with traffic accidents and victims, but for this site specifically, there will be no test drives. So you can't go there and drive a vehicle. So you can't pick up vehicles from there. You can't drop off vehicles there from maintenance. You only go, see, and make a sale, inquire about the vehicles, interact with the salesperson. You're not driving vehicles, so there would be no accidents. We don't even have
crashes,
parking for customers on site. You know, we have a few spots, but not many, and a very limited amount of vehicles on the site. So in that respect, it's the number of vehicles for this specific site is very limited for something like that to occur.
Okay, Michael, and then Ryan.
Hi, thanks for the presentation. I had a couple questions. So I pulled up a news report about the first iteration of this project from the Sunnyside Post in January of 2023. It says the applicants bought the site in May 2020 for $2 million with the sole purpose of building a showroom. How long was the site? You said how long was the site vacant?
So that the original building, I'll tell you, was built in 1930, I believe.
So
The existing building.
So when you bought the site in 2020, was it permitted use to build an auto showroom?
It's R5.
But the article says the sole purpose for buying the site was to develop an auto showroom. Is the article correct that that was the sole purpose that the applicant bought the property for that purpose?
Not familiar with the article you're looking at, but
Okay. Well, yeah, it says that was the sole purpose and they bought it. I have one other question. Thank you. So across the street from this site on Northern Boulevard, 5719, I just looked on the zoning map and also on Google Maps. There's a restaurant and above it, there's 2 apartments. It says on Zola, there are 2 apartments on this property that abuts Northern Boulevard directly across from, the site we're talking about. Have you talked to the people who live there about whether they think their apartments are an inappropriate place to live?
speak to those people.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. That's all I needed. One other question, please. Okay, thank you. Yeah, just one other question. So I know that you abut, like this site abuts another housing, a number of houses, right? Do you have any like letters of support or any people, the neighbors who can speak to this project?
So we did have one one hearing at the Board of Standards and Appeals, there were letters of support that were submitted directly to BSA, and there were also letters not supporting the application. The Board of Standards and Appeals has those. Additionally, when we had the first hearing, the Board of Standards and Appeals requires the applicant to publish in the local newspaper for 2 weeks, which it was, and serve each property owner within a 400-foot radius of the site. That's what this shows here, the radius. And all of those property owners were notified. So they could have attended, I think 2 people attended the hearing, spoke in favor of it. And some sent in objection forms, letters objecting to it to the BSA. So yes, they were notified.
All right.
Yeah, hi, over here. Thank you very much. I'm wondering if you can actually provide a little more context of the dealers sort of this boutique model that already are in operation in other places, and how long they've been in operation, and sort of what the outlook is of how viable this model is long term. And the reason I'm asking about that is because it doesn't sound to me, if there aren't going to be test drives performed here, there aren't going to be maintenance offered at the site. If folks are going to be shopping online and then coming in and using a kiosk, it doesn't really sound to me like this facility is really needed for much at all of the car buying process. And I'm a little bit confused as to how these 15 jobs at the site are going to be sustained long term.
Well, yes, you go ahead and I'll.
So how the boutique works is basically, it's like a key. Okay, all right. So how it works is basically that. So how the boutique works is basically that it's like when you go into Home Depot or Lowe's and you design your kitchen counter there. So you go in and you sit down with the computer at home, you design a car, you look at the car. But most people want to come in and touch the car and feel the car, you know, see how it looks, put their kids into the car, see how it is, because like she said, these are SUVs, so it's families, it's for families, you know, to get around back and forth. No, you can't test drive it there, but they want to feel the car, pick out the car, say, this is the right car, we bring it to their home, test drive it. That's how we have the 15 jobs that are sustainable for a period of time, because we need people to drive the cars back and forth to service, back and forth to people's homes for test drives, back and forth to their work, wherever we have to pick up the car.
Sorry, I guess I'm a little confused then, because you said that, you know, one of the features of the site is there wouldn't be a lot of driving back and forth, so it wasn't a safety concern for the neighborhood. But now you're saying you have 15 jobs at the site driving cars back and forth.
No, the 50, because the cars are stored currently off-site into Long Island currently right now.
So the jobs aren't going to be here?
Yes, no, they're going to be here in our company, but the people.
But not at the site, in the district.
What do you mean? Yes, they are in the site. They are on the site because this is where we're having payroll tax for. This is where the job is located at. But the storage facility is in another location where they'll be working, bringing the cars from that other.
So folks are going to have to travel from this site out to get the cars to bring them to the folks who are
no, we have
actually buying the cars.
Currently, right now, we have a dispatching system because we're doing it in 3-4 dealerships currently right now. We have, you know, basically that I know of, is that basically you have a dispatching system from here, from, you know, on Northern Boulevard. It'll be a phone call will be made from the general sales manager or general manager, call over to our lot manager. Oh, the general manager or sales manager will call over to the lot manager. The lot manager would send one of the drivers with the vehicle to the location that has to be, the car has to go to. Once the car is there, the customer car, whether it's in Manhattan, Brooklyn, Queens, wherever they at, they'll test drive the car around. That person will bring the car back to the lot. The consumer will come back to the dealership and say, this is the car I want, finalize the paperwork, and that's that.
And this boutique model of doing this has been economic and financially sustainable in the other locations where this has been.
So currently, like she said, there's been a few locations. I don't have the data on at this present moment, and we're hoping that it'll be successful. That's what entrepreneurs do. They try something to see if it's a system that'll work.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, in the interest of time, we've got to move along. Sorry. Next one, next time. Yeah, I think we have to move along, but thank you so much for coming. We'll vote on this later today. But yeah, thank you for the presentation. Okay, thank you so much. Next up is our the Europe application 4939 Van Dam Street. Do we oh, back there. Great. Yeah, that's our next agenda item.
You've been voted. Oh, sure. Okay. You've been. Yeah, I'm gonna be at a disadvantage. It's just behind me. There we go. Okay. Good evening. My name is Raymond Levin. I'm with the law firm of Herrick Feinstein. We represent the applicant to this matter. Can we see the next slide, please? Our applicant is JPB. They bought this property, if you can see on this illustration. They bought the property that fronts on Van Dam Street. It's clearly indicated here. And they bought that in 1998. They're seeking to purchase the adjoining property, which is city-owned. It is currently a map street. So the application here is to demap that property and then to purchase it from the city. Next slide, please. This shows the general area. It's zoned M21, a manufacturing district, and also is within an IBZ, which is a district that's trying to encourage businesses and will not allow residential use. Across Van Dam Street from our property is public storage, a big storage facility and a Tesla facility. To the north of us is Dunkin' Donuts and a gas station. To the south is Borden Avenue, which runs underneath the Queens Midtown Expressway. And to our east is the ramp, which wraps around this property and gets you from Van Dam Street up to the expressway. That's next, please. Okay, so the property that the applicant owns, that JPB owns, on the northern part of the site is a two-story building. The first floor is 10,000 square feet, plus or minus, warehousing, food preparation, and delivery. On the second floor, it's 4,000 square feet. It's used for offices, JPB's offices. And on the southern part of the site, there's a one-story building, one-story warehouse, which also currently is used with food prep and delivery. It's 4,200 square feet. Between the two buildings is a parking area, which currently has about 12 spots. The current uses, there are both buildings, first floors are leased to food prep and delivery services. I think one of them is called Hungry Panda. And so that's how it's currently used. Next, please. Oh, by the way, the city-owned property, which I really didn't discuss, is 7,700 square feet, and it's vacant, sort of weed-strewn, and not maintained at the moment. The action here is to demap the street, which currently it's the green area here. to demap it, and then purchase it from the city. And as I said, it's, in order to do that, the city would have to do an appraisal, so the price would be set by an appraisal that's done by the city. There would be an agreement, mapping agreement. That mapping agreement would provide for a 15-foot buffer against the ramp so that the city could come in and maintain the ramp should it need maintenance. It would also require a restricted declaration having to do with environmental concerns, both for noise and for where you can put your HVAC equipment. Let's next, please. Now we have a series of photos that that show you this area. This is looking at our two-story building and the ramp, the beginning of the ramp off of Van Dam. Next, please. This is looking from the other direction. The building with the red roof is the one-story warehouse. Between them is that parking area, and then you can see the two-story building beyond. Next. This is Borden Avenue. This, in order to get to this property, which some unhoused people have done, they can go right, they can walk down here on Borden Avenue and it swings around the one-story building to that back area. Next. This is the conditions back there between our building, and you can't see the ramp here, but the ramp is to your right. Next, please. And this is another at the beginning of that ramp, looking at the two-story warehouse building. This upper floor is the office space. Next. And this is what we intend to do. The property we're looking to acquire from the city is not going to be built upon. It will be an open area and would be an outdoor eating and drinking space. As in conjunction with that, we would convert part of our property, that's the currently owned property, privately owned property. The warehouse, the 4,200 square foot, one-story warehouse would be food prep, kitchen, and there's a loading dock at that location that would provide food services for the outdoor space. A portion of the larger warehouse building would contain the entranceway, a small bar area, and restrooms. So you would get into the outdoor space through that location, and food would come from the location, the building on the I guess it's your left, your right, my left. Did I make the time frame? Okay, so I think that is basically it. It's fairly straightforward. Looking to demap a part of a city street that really isn't a city street. The city has no use for, acquiring it and cleaning it up and putting it into some positive use.
Thank you so much. Let's go into Q&A. Mark, 10 minutes, please, on the timer. Christine was first.
I just want to clarify the action, because my understanding is that demapping is one action and disposition of city property is a separate action. So, but you're talking about them as one thing.
They are one thing.
Is that, can I ask city planning to comment on that? Sorry. I mean, there's a big difference. The city could demap that, yes, but then if they're going to dispose of it, they would need to show us, you know, that the reason that they were disposing of it to your company as opposed to other potential owners.
Well, first of all, there are no other abutting
Yeah.
owners, but
Sorry.
if you read our application, demappings such as this include the ability of the city to dispose of it.
But the city then has to go back and get approval for that disposition.
No, that's part of this ULURP application.
Okay, so what I'm hearing from city planning is that they're not aware, they need to clarify that.
They can certainly clarify it, but the answer is that this is all part and parcel of the same application.
So it's both demapping and land disposition,
Yeah,
disposition of public property.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Tom, then thank you. Turn off. Thank you, sir. You indicated the city has no use for this land.
Yes.
I would argue that we have tremendous use for the land in its current state.
Okay.
2 inches of rainwater per hour is absorbed by each square foot. Our sewer system is already overtaxed. I see that you're going to convert the land. Is that still going to be dirt or you're paving over it?
I assume it's going to be a porous material.
You assume?
I assume. It's
Okay, thank you.
Not been designed yet.
Benji, come off mute.
Hi, thank you very much. Following up a little bit on Tom, so the part of the public land that does not seem, if I understand correctly, to have any particular plan.
Yeah.
This could be developed.
Benji, hang on. Benji, hang on.
Sorry,
Benji, wait, hang on. Restart, please. Restart.
Okay. So I hope you can hear me because I'm commuting. Basically, sort of following up on Tom's comment, since the land that is publicly owned right now does not seem to have any specific plan by the applicant, would it be possible to build in community use of the space, keeping it as a green space, potentially as something like a community farm that grows food that's distributed to the local pantries or things of that sort, where it can provide the important ecosystem service of absorbing water and potentially have many more positive effects on on the local community.
Benji, I don't think we heard you. If you want to type your question in, we'll ask it again later. But thank you. All right, Steve.
Accepting your statement that it's one action, which I do accept. Is that when the city conveys it, is it going to be for the particular use that you're proposing, or will they simply convey the property and then maybe we'll come back a year from now or 5 years from now to find out you want a different use for it?
There will not be, at the moment, there is no restriction except the M21. And the environmental review, which was done as part of this, had as a reasonable worst case us adding about 6,000 square feet to one of our buildings is what the city thought would be the reasonable worst case, at least we're talking today.
So in other words, if a restaurant doesn't work out there, you can build there.
You could, yes, you could, you could rip down both buildings and build something new, because the additional property that we would acquire gives us a little more floor area.
Okay, so the issue before us is whether we want to allow it to be demapped and sold for private use.
Correct.
Whatever that use could be, assuming it's a legal use.
Correct. I mean, this is what's contemplated now. Yes.
That's fine. Thank you.
You're welcome.
You have a follow-up?
In that area currently, there are several people who have established homes are unhoused. What is the intent to do with the people living there?
Living where, sir?
In the space, they've established encampments there.
They would be removed.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Sheila?
Thank you. I'm not sure you can answer this question, but I put it out there is, I'm guessing did you approach or did your company approach DOT about the acquisition or what?
Yes.
So the question they.
Both city and state, because they both have some jurisdiction here.
Okay, so I mean, so there was no public RFP to dispose of or to sell this property to potentially get the highest possible bid.
There is no public bid. It is a property that is that's being sold to the adjacent property owner, which is standard.
Proposing the sale.
Yes.
Just clear. Okay, thank you.
Benji, we should be able to hear you this time. So if you want to try again and also turn your camera on. Benji, thank you.
Hi, so hopefully it's going to work this time. So basically my question is, given that the public space is not going to be used in the project, and also given what Tom mentioned about the ecosystem service of absorbing water when there is heavy rains, could that space be built in, would be built in the contract or whatever it would be, that this space is used for community green space, potentially something like a community farm that grows food for the local pantry, or other similar use that keeps the important absorbent characteristic of having, a green space, green, uncovered, non-impermeable soil, and so on and so forth.
That, as I understand it, you're asking whether it can be put to an alternate use, not by my client. The city will, assuming that this is approved, will determine that they want it mapped and sold. And I see there's a hand up and someone named Stephen Barry, who happens to be my client. So maybe he's been watching me. I may have said everything wrong. So if you can.
Does Stephen want to make a comment?
Hi, can you guys hear me? This is Stephen
Barry.
Barry.
Turn your camera on also, please. You can turn your camera on also.
Can you guys hear and see me?
Here he is. Yes.
Hi, how are you guys doing?
You can start, Stephen. The camera will catch up.
Okay, perfect. So if I can just address to the comments that were made, and there are certainly concerns that living in the area and certainly operating this property for the 20 plus years that we have, rainwater is a huge concern. And so one of the issues that the current state of this, what we have referred to colloquially as the owners as a back lot, has been that it has not been taken care of by the DOT in any way, shape, or form, or any agency. So all of that rainwater doesn't go into the ground. It actually goes into the street level and overflows the drains along Van Dam Street and the ramp. Part of that problem is because the amount of litter and the amount of debris that has been collected on there from driving on the on-ramp, plus the innumerable encampments that have taken place on the lot. So the number one concern for us is to be able to build something there that is sustainable, obviously, as a business, but also to create something that's not going to continue to flood the existing property. So part of the work that will be done is also including excavating the ground there. So it's actually more porous than it currently is. And then creating an area that not only is sustainable for what's in those plans that you guys could see there, but also can collect the water as it comes down. And it's certainly, in my experience, it's been definitely coming down more.
Oh, you went on mute again.
Okay, did you guys
Anything
get
else
all of that?
wrong?
Not that very last bit.
Okay,
but
sorry.
we got the gist of it.
Perfect.
Thank you so much. In the intro, it's 9:00. Last question, Laura.
So just out of curiosity, since you want to build an outdoor dining venue, how many patrons would you expect it to accommodate?
I think we're looking at something in the 50 range as the amount that it could accommodate, but until it's up and running, we don't know.
Okay, and you said your property has a parking lot for 12 cars?
Yes, that's currently, yes.
Okay, so would you add bike parking or other provisions for people to get there besides the Q67? It's kind of a
I don't
tricky
see
spot.
any reason why we wouldn't.
Okay, and next question, given the fumes and litter and noise from the ramp, what mitigations would you make? To make it pleasant there.
In terms of litter and whatever, I mean, it'll now be privately owned and maintained. So, I mean, that number one, we can't stop people who throw things out of their car windows, right?
Tell me about it.
So I know that where I live, I do a road cleanup twice a year to try and deal with that. So you can't do anything, but you can clean it up. And that's what will happen, and the space will be used that way. In terms of the noise, it's not that noisy, but the city noise code has to do with indoor noise. So there's a provision that if we redevelop the property somehow, if we add space, that it has to meet a certain indoor noise quality, but there is nothing for outdoor. I live in Dumbo. There's a lot of noise underneath the Brooklyn Bridge and the Manhattan Bridge. So, and people do come and they do go to restaurants. So, while it's not perfect, it's not something that seems in other places to deter people.
Okay, interesting.
All right, thank you. We'll end it there in the interest of time. Any closing thoughts, remarks?
Closing remarks? No, I mean, I was a little, I'd say flip, but the question about what happens to the people who are there, clearly we would work with social services, with the city, to try and have them, located in shelter or get services that they need. Obviously, the fact that they're there means that they've rejected those services or haven't become aware of them. So hopefully this will create a better circumstance for people than camping out, underneath the ramp onto the expressway.
And if I could just speak to that very quickly, this is Stephen Barry, owner JPB, 4939. The issue with any of the transients that have been and the houseless individuals in this area have been not consistent. So each year there's almost a different group of people or a different person. So this is constantly changing hands. It's not a stable space. And more importantly, there's been evidence of lots of illicit activity in this area, as it's kind of out of sight from Van Dam, Borden, and any adjacent areas. So stopping this area from being used currently as it is another beneficial thing for the neighborhood.
Great, thank you so much.
Thank you.
All right, board business, attendance.
All right, good evening. Amparo Abel Bay, Nelly Afshar, Anatol Ashraf, John Bahia, absent. Anne-Marie Baranowski, Carisha Batan, Nick Berkowitz, absent. Okay. Kat Bloomfield,
Present.
Danielle Brecker, Carlos Castel-Croak, Lisa Charles, Tanya Chavez. Excused. Osman Chowdhury. Steve Cooper. Warren Davis. He's sick. Do you leave? Okay. Lisa Deller. Maury Gallinoy, excused. Sanath Kamir, excused. Dr. Raz Janutsas. Alexandra Gonzalez.
Present, online.
Thank you. Where were we? Camille Gray, excused. Kenny Greenberg. Mohammed Hossein. Christine Hunter. Leland Kendall, excused. Badrun Khan, excused. Diana Kitchler. James Kim. Pramit Kumar, excused. Jemang Lama. Absent. Sheila Lewandowski. Benjamin Lucas.
Present.
Okay. Patrick Martinez. Tom Matusas. Eric Narberg. Andy Olivares, excused. Zishan Ott. Riley Owens. Jolly Patel, excused. Maya Saab. Norberto Saldana, excused. Laura Shepard. Ryan Smith, it's me, I'm here. Caroline Spitzer, excused. Lauren Springer, here. Akello Thomas.
Good evening, I am here.
Thank you. Mary Torres. Absent. May Tran. No, absent. Leticia Vasquez. And Michael Zurab. All right. Call to order. We have a quorum. Go Mets.
Gotta believe. Gotta believe. And who would have believed? All right. So attendance. I know Christine, you pointed out of a critical thing we need to fix in this month's minutes, which is we said that we voted for the draft scope of comments for one LIC, right? So sorry for the one LIC scope of work, right? So we need to say we voted on our comments on the draft scope of work. So if motion to table and vote for 2 months of meetings, 2 months of minutes next month. So in November, we'll do October and September. Yeah. Show of hands. All right. Abstentions. Okay, one abstention. And no, none opposed. Okay, great. Awesome. So I will be brief with my chairperson's report. Happy belated Rosh Hashanah. Happy Italian Heritage Day and Indigenous Peoples Day on Monday. This month it was great to be at the LSE Summit. So thank you, Charles, you and team for the invite. So much happening. It was my first time. So real learning opportunity. Just want to say Kat has been doing a wonderful job as a treasurer. Thank you. One more meeting. And Kat, do you want to present next month? Next month we're going to vote on it, right? Pretty much.
Yeah, we're gonna talk about it next month and vote on it. I do want to spend some time next month to talk about all the things that we've been able to accomplish, because we at the beginning of our sessions had 50 items on our capital priorities list, and we've gotten that down to 40 because there's been movement, there's been things done, and we thank our elected officials for helping us get these things done for the community.
Awesome. So yeah, more to come on that next one. Thanks, Kat. All right, housekeeping committees. you have to attend your committees. I feel like a school teacher, but yeah, it's part of the, you know, the agreement on being on the board. Is it, you're allowed to miss 3, at least 1 per year, right? Right. So like 2 meetings a month. So yeah, you have to attend at least 1 committee, and 1 meeting of that one committee. So anyway, committee meetings, you have to go to your committees. And if you can't, please let the committee chair and vice chair know. Committee chairs, please, and the board office. Committee chairs, please send your agendas to Debbie no later than 7 business days in advance. Public members, we'll reach out to this month. We'll reach out this month to people we've appointed. Now, this is the public member schedule really has been like up in the air. We really haven't been consistent with it. So I will take the responsibility and the blame for messing up the public member schedule this year. So whoever we appoint, we'll let them do November 2024 through April 2026. You get a couple extra months, and I think that's only fair. Otherwise, it would have been you don't get your full year, so you'll get a year and change. Just coming up hopefully by end of this year, we'll have that digital processes document ready and a couple of ways of working. Hopefully these are addendums to the bylaws that we can make. And then vote on that. So so with that's it for me. Debbie.
Thank you, Chairman. You're a hard act to follow. I just want to remind everybody, your attendance records are due. So after this board meeting, we will be sending it to Borough Hall. They have requested it, so I just wanted to let everybody know that, because as you heard, they're working on for next year. Remember, if you have community complaints, call them into the board office, get those 311 numbers, and we're happy to follow them and follow up and get the answers that you need. Again, I want to thank Hearst Studios. They do a great job and work together with us. I've attended borough consultation meetings. Some of them have been a little difficult. The agencies has always been forthcoming as they should be. And we hope to get them to be more forthcoming, as you all know. And the budget team works very, very hard. And we sent out letters and they don't always respond. So we've kind of made sure that they know that. We've had 16 complaints. The top complaints for this month have been sanitation, illegal dumping, DEP, catch basins, and PD, illegally parked vehicles and vehicles on the sidewalk throughout this entire district. And that double parking has just been, so please read my cabinet minutes. You get to see what I talk about, which is what you guys talk about at your committees. And we know what the highlights and the important items are to make sure that we try to get our agencies to respond. That being said, Tom and Lisa last month asked about the flagpole for Blissville. Spring 2024, hopefully the shovel's in the ground. They're finishing the procurement now, but they know that they can't get the shovel in the ground in the winter. So they're pushing for spring 2025. They didn't have an answer at our budget consultation, but they did call me the last couple of days to make sure that I have the answer for tonight's meeting. So we appreciate that very much. Update on some schools in our district. Parcel C, 1-50, 54th Avenue. That scheduled opening is for spring 2027. Northern Boulevard, the high school that we did the ribbon cutting on, is scheduled to open September 2025. Port Square Elementary School, delayed 1 year due to legal agreements. And that scheduled opening is tentatively, but they're not in full contract yet, scheduled for, the bad news is 2020, fiscal 2028. Again, we're trying to Make sure our website is updated. We keep it the best we can. If you see something, say something. Make sure, you know, any and all eyes are very important. We work together with you guys. So if you see something or you want something up there, please let us know. I'm happy to do it as much as you can. Wishing everybody a safe and happy Halloween and an easy fast for Yom Kippur. And the next community board meeting is the first Thursday of the month. We're back to our regular schedule, November 7th.
Well, thank you, Debbie. Kat had a question.
Yes. Hi. I don't know if this is a dumb question. It may be. Can we put in 311 complaints about the agencies not responding to the letters? So like we wait like a month and then we just put in one for each letter. Okay.
I did bring it up at the cabinet meeting, so you can read it in my minutes, because I did at my cabinet meeting when I have all the agencies and the mayor's office there as well. I made sure that it was known we need to get some follow-up. So I'm grateful for some updates tonight. So we keep pushing. So thank you. And thank you for the working hard on that budget. We appreciate that.
Of course. Thank you.
And anyone who has an email change, a phone number change, or you move to a new place, we need to have that information. Borough Hall needs to have that information. So please make sure we have any and all updated information so that we can contact you and Borough Hall can contact you. We keep those books and records equal with the borough president's office, so the files stay intact. So if you've changed your residence or your email is different or your phone number is different, please make sure the board office knows. Thanks.
Thank you, Debbie. And next is update from city planning.
Hi, everybody. I'm Katie Crawford from the Department of City Planning. I have 3 updates for you tonight. So there have been a couple of projects mentioned in the local news, and status updates were requested. Both projects are in very early stages. The first is 5002 Queens Boulevard. This is the one that's right by PC Richards. We're currently reviewing their very earliest stages of their applications. So I anticipate certification will be spring or possibly even beyond that. The next project is 2131 46th Avenue. This is the one that's across the street from MoMA PS1. Again, we're reviewing the very earliest stages of their application, and I'm not anticipating certification until spring or possibly later on. Yes. Okay, so the PC Richards project, or it's probably not fair to call it that, but that project, it is going to be, the request is for a change from an N district to an R district with the commercial overlay. This, if approved as proposed, this would include about 348 units. 86 of those would be affordable, and it would also include commercial and community facility space. The project across from MoMA PS1, the request is to change a paired M and R district to a higher density R district with a commercial overlay and to map MIH. If approved as proposed, the project would include about 70 dwelling units. 18 would be affordable. It would also include parking, ground floor, commercial, and community facility use.
I believe Penny and I both believe that that site is in the 1 LIC district.
No, the area, MoMA PS1, that's outside of the project area.
Okay, so it would be separately rezoned. It wouldn't be it wouldn't be.
Correct. Yeah, this is going to be totally separate. These are both private applications. So moving on to the second request, which was upcoming milestones for the 1 LIC plan. So first, I want to share that we have agreed with the community or the land use committee that we will be coming to every committee each month and spending about 30 minutes on each agenda to cover various topics from month to month. This month's topic is waterfront zoning. It's a good segue into my next milestone, which is actually the October 20th walk shop. This has been recently announced. I know that there have been comments that There's kind of limited capacity for this workshop, but we've opened up the capacity. We still invite you all to register on Eventbrite, but if you want to just show up, that's fine too. We're meeting at Queensbridge Park at 12 p.m. We anticipate the walk will last about 2 hours, and we'll be walking south along Vernon until we get to Hunters Point South. Let's see. Information on this can be found on our newly revamped project website, licplan.nyc. It's right on the front page. There's engagement opportunities. Click into there and you'll be able to see more details. We also have another waterfront related event. This is going to be held on October 29th. We haven't really published details about this, so once we have that finalized, I will share out with you all through Debbie. So be on the lookout for that. And we are planning to hold more engagement over the fall and winter. We don't have details finalized and can't share about that yet, but definitely stay tuned for more details. Outside of engagement milestones, the next plan milestone will be the release of the final scope of work and the draft environmental impact statement. Hello, okay, or DEIS. At this time, we don't have a set date for the release, but it will be released 10 days before the project is certified. So all of these milestones are tied together and tied to the certification date, which is not finalized. And like we presented last time, we are anticipating this will be in spring of 2025. Okay, lastly, I have exciting staffing announcements from the Queen's office. So the first announcement is Fagala Leshner. She is joining the team as a borough planner. She's joining the team as a borough planner, and she's also joining our little CB2 family, and she'll be co-liaisoning with the board here. I'm also not going anywhere. We're still going to be doing this together. And then lastly, I'm very excited to announce the new director of the Queen's office, Lynn Zhang.
Hi, everybody. It's great to be here. I'm very excited, to be working with the amazing team that we have at City Planning already. I am new to city planning, but I'm not new to city work. I have probably 15 years of experience working for the city. Christine, so nice to see you actually. Yeah, so Christine and I worked on an affordable housing project in Greenpoint, Brooklyn. Greenpoint Hospital, actually the first building is under construction, I think, which is really exciting. And then I also worked with Zishan at the SCA. So we talked about Parcel C. So worked with Amtrak and getting permits to be on that site. So this is my 4th day and I'm just digging into the materials. I printed out your comments and response to the draft scope of work and also your ideas for One LIC. So I'm very much looking forward to listening and to working with you all. Thank you.
Thank you. I have 2 questions as relates to One Long Island City. The first is, when could we expect some milestones as it relates to the promises made for the context area of the project? And then second, why has the southern border of the project, Newtown Creek, been left out of the waterfront discussion? Thank you.
I'm sorry, what's your name? Tom, thanks for those questions. I don't have answers for them at this very moment, but I will write them down and, we hope to get back to you. Thanks.
That's tested. First week, welcome. Awesome. I think that's everything. Great. Thanks so much. Welcome. Okay, let's get to business. Our first of 2 votes. So on this one for 5802 Northern Boulevard, yeah, Christine, if you want to come up to present it. Yeah, if you want to, and Michael did a really good job of like writing a summary of what happened 2 years ago. So yeah, Michael, if you want to come summarize what we did 2 years ago, and then Christine can take it from there.
Okay.
Hey, good evening, folks. I'll try to be quick. So 2 years ago, this board recommended against a rezoning request for an auto showroom on Northern Boulevard. Councilmember One and her colleagues on the city council agreed with that recommendation and voted down that rezoning request, leading to a rejection of the rezoning and the launch of the heart of the district planning process, a comprehensive planning process for Northern Boulevard and the surrounding areas. This requested variance under consideration today seeks to circumvent the board's vote from 2 years ago, proposing essentially the same automobile showroom, but taking a different legal approach, a variance from the zoning instead of a rezoning to address the incompatibility of the proposed use with the current R5 residential zoning. Our board's opposition 2 years ago was based on the principle that new auto-related businesses do not match our vision for Northern Boulevard. We said 2 years ago, our district needs more housing, especially affordable housing, not auto dealerships. And moreover, the auto showroom conflicts with our goals for climate action and safer streets, particularly given the safety risks associated with SUVs. These reasons remain just as relevant today as they did 2 years ago, and community input from the heart of the district process has only reinforced those priorities. Therefore, the Land Use Committee took a vote and voted to recommend that the board advise the BSA against granting the variance. Thanks.
So I did just want to clarify the difference between the original application and the second, because the BSA exists to provide relief to property owner. Well, it exists for a lot of reasons, but in part, if to address the concerns of property owners who actually can't use their properties, based on the restrictions on those properties. And so it is different than a rezoning, and the standards are different. And frankly, this has been a controversial application from the get-go, and the votes have been fairly close in every case. That doesn't stop us from reiterating the concerns that we raised and the BSA hearing them. But just so everybody understands, they're really two different. The Bureau of Standards and Appeals is a different process and a different agency. Anyway, so I guess we want to. You've heard the recommendation with the recommendation of. Wait a minute, make sure I get the numbers right. Yeah, the Land Use Committee discussed this, heard this. And voted, where's our vote? Yes. Voted to recommend that the BSA disapprove the application with 9 in favor and 6 opposed. So if there's more discussion, or if you want to just make a motion. Wait,
what's the question first, Laura?
Yeah.
If my memory serves me correctly, there were 5 indices that they had to prove in order to get the BSA approved. Right now, can you just tell everybody what those findings were? Because our rejection has to be based on those findings, I think.
Is the yeah, can you just list the 3 findings that we have to meet, that have to be met? I'm not a BSA expert.
Yes, it's 5 findings, and the A finding is uniqueness. So the subject site has to be unique physically, has to have unique physical characteristics, which I went over them, the shape, also the history of the occupancy and development of the premises. It was never residential, even though it's in a residential zone. The location on Northern Boulevard. The second finding is the B finding is hardship. So we've proven that by analyzing if you can build an as of right development, what would your return on investment be? you would end up with a very small building because you'd have to provide 3 front yards since there are 3 frontages. There's 3 street frontages. So there's an 18-foot front yard and then 2 10-foot front yards on 58th Street and 60th Street and a 18-foot yard on Northern. That leaves you with a very small building. So you'd build studio and 1-bedroom apartments, end up with very negative return on your investment. As I stated before, this has been vacant for over 25 years when the restaurant closed. It could have been developed for residential. It was not. The C finding, neighborhood character, is it appropriate? That part of Northern Boulevard is developed with many automobile related uses. We documented that in our studies, uniqueness study and neighborhood study. The other finding is the D finding, self-created hardship. Did the predecessor entitle or owners or current owner subdivide this lot from a larger parcel and create this odd-shaped lot? No, it existed. It existed before 1961. They didn't create the shape, they didn't create the hardship. And the final finding is the E finding, minimum variance. The use variance would be the minimum required to provide relief to the property owner. And just one more thing, a point I want to make. The difference between the rezoning and the variance is on a rezoning, when it's approved, that's it. They can build and there are no conditions put on the property. With the Board of Standards and Appeals, it's a term. So the board could grant a 5-year term, 10-year term, 20-year term, whatever they decide is appropriate. And there are conditions. The owner has to comply with those conditions. Hours of operation. They can't do things that were, they have to comply with the approved plans and with the resolution of the board, the decision. Otherwise, that the variance can be rescinded, and it has happened. And they can have the applicant go back to BSA for a hearing and rescind that variance. So that's a big difference between rezoning and variance.
Thank you very much. That was helpful.
Thank you. Okay, we had a motion. Yep.
Laura.
I'd like to make a motion to support the Land Use Committee's recommendation and reject the BSA application for 5802 Northern Boulevard.
Is there, okay. Rouse.
Now discussion and time check. It is 9:30. We have one more vote to go. So 10 minutes of questions and then discussion. Riley.
Yeah, this is a comment I wanted to make before about this. I live in this neighborhood. We come here every month. We do our committees every month to make a more livable community for everybody. And the largest obstacle to livable community in the neighborhood of Woodside is the auto businesses, both the car sellers and the auto fixers, the body shops. They park all over the sidewalks. They do whatever they want. They have no consequences, no repercussions. And this property has a lot of sidewalk, and that's a very, very pretty plan that they put forward with no cars parked on it. But there will be cars parked on that sidewalk, and there will be cars all over. And this is between an elementary school and a new high school. It's next to a subway station. It's on a bus lane, and this is a developing neighborhood. It's a very popular neighborhood. We don't have to keep digging ourselves into this hole where we're just covered in cars and oil and grease. We can dig our way out, and this could be the place. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm going to offer a friendly amendment because we have to address the 5 characteristics. Offhand, I don't believe that they meet the second thing of hardship, since the conditions were known at purchase. The only reason they can't make the return the dollar, which was the self-created hardship number 4 is that they pay too much for the property. Have they paid an amount for the property that would have had a simple restaurant that was there as an example, or build a 2-story or a 2-family home even, then the hardship would not exist. So this is a self-created hardship. We've gone through BSAs of this community board for, to my knowledge, to my experience, for over 40 years. We have granted them on occasion. I don't see that this is an occasion, and I also believe that we should make a point in our motion about the fact that we have demanded and a Northern Boulevard study is either underway or on the way, and that this is totally adverse to what we had talked about doing on Northern Boulevard. So that would be the friendly amendment. I would ask land use to clean it up a bit, though.
Or accepted. Any other? Okay, Lisa, are you calling the question? It's a roll call. All right, Ryan. Yeah. Oh, yes.
Yes, sure.
Yes is no, exactly.
Okay, so yes to reject. All
Yes
right.
to reject, yes to disapprove.
Nelly Afshar. Anatol Ashraf.
Yes.
John Bahia absent. Anne-Marie Baranowski. Carisha Batan. Nick Berkowitz absent. Cap Bloomfield.
Yes.
Danielle Brecker. Carlos Castelcroc. Lisa Charles. Osman Chowdhury. Steve Cooper. Lisa Deller. Dr. Raz Janutsas. Alexandra Gonzalez.
Yes.
Camille Gray. Absent. Okay. Kenny Greenberg. Mohammed Hossein. Christine Hunter. Diana Kitchler. James Kemp. Sheila Lewandowski. Benji Lucas.
Yes.
Patrick Martinez. Tom Matutsas. Eric Narberg. Zishan Ott. Riley Owens. Maya Saab. She left. Okay. Laura Shepard. Me, yes. Lauren Springer. Akalo Thomas.
Yes.
Leticia Vasquez. Michael Zurab. All right. Carries.
I think so. Well, applicants, thank you so much for, this is never easy to have it been rejected, but thank you for coming and thank you for the presentation. All right, next up is the
Step is 4939 Van Dam Street, the demapping proposal, and the land use committee expressed concerns about the isolated nature of the area and whether an outdoor dining establishment was realistic. They also therefore wondered about the applicant's true long-term intentions for the site beyond just outdoor dining, such as just expanding the site to be more resaleable for whatever use. Also, I think given the lack of publicly owned land, as well as the total lack of green space in the surrounding area, there was concern that future disposition of the lot after demapping would not be in the public interest. And it was clarified, city planning did clarify for me that it is, in this case, a single action. Both the demapping and the disposition to the, I guess because it's the adjacent property owner, they have a kind of some sort of built-in right to purchase from the city if it is demapped. Sorry.
Okay, so I definitely need like further clarification on this, but there's only one action. It's an action. There's no PP action on the application. It is my understanding that the action is required to like pave the way for the PP action, but there is no disposition action in this application.
Oh, wait a minute. I'm getting contradictory. Well, sorry? Now I'm really confused.
I think we need to clarify. We'll go back because I don't think any of the planners here have looked at this application or worked on this application.
Action only on the DMAP. How's that? I mean, that was kind of what I thought we were approving. Discussing anyway at our land use committee.
Right.
So that's definitely in front of the board. Lisa.
My understanding, this is already in Euler. We're in the review period, no?
For the
Yes.
demapping.
So
action.
we have our 60 days and we need to vote.
Yeah, we do.
So we don't have time to table it, which is everybody wanted to table. We can't table it.
Right, but it's just on the demapping action, whether this is not going to be a street anymore. Not part of this application as far as we know, but we'll look into it, and if that's different, yeah.
Somebody just showed me the wording that seemed to refer to both things.
So the wording in the application says, well, I can pull it up. Okay, no, I closed it. So the application basically says that, so the first paragraph is about the demapping action, and then the second paragraph says something along the lines of like, this will like be accompanied by, or this will like allow for disposition of the property, but it allows for disposition of the property as in we can't dispose of a street end. So it is my firm understanding that this is just the demapping. This has nothing to do with the city selling the property.
Okay.
The applicant disagrees, but the information that I have on the publicly accessible version of ZAP only outlines demapping.
Do you want to address that? Do you want to address that?
Well, I mean, well, if it were a separate action, we would have to address the disposition would come before us as a separate application in the future for us to act on. That's what that's my current understanding based on. So, but
any clarification?
I obviously disagree. I certainly wouldn't have brought this before you without all of the applications that were needed. We work with Philip Habib Associates. They've done 100 street demappings and sales, and they've advised me that this is standard practice when you're doing a demapping at the request of not of the city, request of a private party, and there would be adjacent owner. But let city planning do whatever research they want to do. It's fine with me.
well, for the purposes of this evening, I would say that the motion that the committee made.
I'm sorry. So I'm sorry. Okay, so the project description that was submitted in the most recent filed land use application actually explicitly says no other actions are proposed aside from the change to the city map described above. That's pretty clear.
Correct. That's correct. That's the only action that we're asking for.
Okay, great. So it's consistent, right? Any motions? Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Was to disapprove the application as the property should remain in the public hands. 12 people were in favor of the motion, 3 opposed and no abstention. That was from the committee.
I make a motion to support land use's motion. Is that right? To disapprove the demapping.
Okay, I guess more discussion.
Patrick, Sheila, Tom.
Yeah, I've taken a look at this. I kind of felt it at land use, and I'll kind of reiterate it to the larger board here. This is a piece of dead property that isn't being utilized. We have someone who's looking to utilize it, take a risk at maybe a restaurant, maybe something else. And this is a piece of dead property that is not accessible, generally speaking. So after decades of non-use, if there's someone who's looking to put it to use with the city not putting it to use, I like that. That's all.
With all the confusion, I have two parts to this. The one is to offer a friendly amendment that this is not in support of the land use decision. Because it's basically a motion to reject the demapping, because the land use decision was based on a different understanding. So first that, but then, thank you. And then the second part is to me, if the intention really was a restaurant, then the other options like leasing from the city could be explored. The loss of the property long-term, we don't know what the full development of the area will be, is a potential loss of other uses like park space, which we desperately need. And workers like to have places to sit in the park as well as residents.
Thank you. Number one, Oh, thank you. So I question also the feasibility of the intent to use the space for restaurant purposes, as there was a restaurant at this location selling pizza that failed. Second, I challenge the owner's argument that the land is not absorbing water, as there is trees and grass and weeds growing there. The only way they could grow is if water was absorbed. And finally, I would rather call upon the Honorable Queensborough President Donovan Richards to act on this land as he did with the medians and call upon DOT to clean up their land. Thank you.
Yeah. Can we?
I just want to piggyback on what Patrick said a little bit. I think that I definitely agree. And I know people might want this to be parkland or some kind of wonderful space, but if we're not actively advocating for that and like consistently asking for that to be the case, then it's just going to continue to be nothing. So I don't feel the need to prevent that.
Can I suggest a stipulation or an additional friendly amendment that says the city should take care of this property and secure it and keep it in better condition? Because that's their responsibility.
Two amendments now, if we're keeping track. Pat, then Steve.
I would just like to point out for the last 3-4 years that I've been the treasurer, we have asked every single year for green space. So it's not that we haven't been asking, we have been asking. Thank you.
Yeah, this is a demapping thing. I believe, by the way, that they will get the property if it's demapped. And they probably won't build a restaurant. They'll probably add to their property. So try to just look at it as a demapping. Should the city continue to maintain, or excuse me, not maintain this space? They're not going to turn into a park. It's too small. Even for a pocket park in Manhattan, it's too small. It's either going to stay the way it is, or the city will get a few dollars by selling it. So the question is, before us, do we see some reason not to demap it? I personally do not see a reason not to demap it, even assuming they're going to build on it, even assuming it's going to cause further sewer things. I accept all that. We could ask them, the builder, to do something about the ground and about planting trees and things that we've done before, but I don't see any reason why we should oppose the demapping of a unused space, city land that's going to waste. Laura.
I take issue with the characterization of trees as nothing, especially in the armpit of a highway off-ramp where the air pollution and the fumes are really serious. we need trees for, yeah, water absorption, for pollution mitigation. And if I do believe that legislation passed the city council to and some funding was allocated to develop parks in these kinds of locations. So this is something that I actually do think that we should pursue, and that we keep it public land to do it.
Roz, then Emery.
I'd like to propose a friendly addendum or
It's a third friendly amendment.
and that would be simply to include in this that we do request it's DOT that manages this property, that they clean it up and make it accessible to the public. Not just clean it up and put a chain link fence around it, but make it, and then if they want, and then if, for instance, they do build a restaurant, they could have their employees use that or people use that area too.
Emery.
I've been pretty conflicted about this because I value the green space, and I think that's really important that we have green infrastructure, but I don't see it as being used by anyone because I don't think it's accessible. So I think it's fine that we say that we want to keep it as green space and we ask the DOT to clean it up and maintain it. Yeah. But I don't think we should expect or have the expectation that anyone can really use it. The use is what Laura says, that it can help keep the environment cleaner.
Right.
And I don't accept that amendment based on what you said.
I don't think it was an amendment, was it?
It's not an amendment.
Right. So right now, there are two accepted amendments. One, that this is only for demapping, and second, that the city should care for the property appropriately and secure it appropriately.
All right, Riley, and then Carisha, and then someone called. I was just gonna echo Anne Marie. Like, yeah, I'm conflicted. It's if it's too remote to be used as a restaurant, it's too remote to be used as a park. I also believe, I know Patrick, you said during land use that if you build it, they will come, right? Whatever you build, somebody's going to come. But something needs to be done with it. But I hear lots of options for something to be done with it. So yeah, it's a tough one. Riley.
Yeah, just a quick one. I'm not a big property owner, so 7,000 square feet is very foreign to me, but I'm doing the math and it feels like this room feels like 7,000 square feet, like 70 times 100. That's a very big space. It's hard to see on these satellite images, but that is a big space. That is much bigger than a pocket park. And I agree with Sheila, workers in the area need a place to go. They might just find their favorite space in the city within this space. And if we vote to give it away, it will never be that. It will always be gone. So it's, we're fighting in some parts of Long Island City for public space and asking if we should give away this public space.
Yeah. It's 70,000 square feet.
7,000.
7,000. Sorry, but that's 70 by 100.
Yeah, that's what I said.
It's like 3 Sunnyside, that's like 3 townhouse lots, basically.
Yeah. That's a lot.
And I just.
5.
I recommend that the lot be used for trees. Trees purify our air and combat climate change. Trees provide housing for millions of creatures, species that protect us from disease. Trees cool the streets. Trees protect against floods and water pollution. Trees ease the mind during stressful times. Thank you.
I also just want to give. Okay, great. I just wanted to put into context also for the full board at the land use committee, from my understanding, so tell me if I'm off. It seemed like the owners just kind of wanted to take control of that land because they wanted to make sure there were no trespassers near their property. It doesn't seem like they were that motivated and inspired to make it an outdoor dining area. It seemed like they just needed to come up with an idea in order to justify them wanting that land. The second thing is also there are plans that if they were to go through with this, they would then basically, tell me if I'm understanding this, they were gonna have to let the current tenant know that they would have to leave. So no, well, yeah, well, yes, but also the actual business that's leasing from them. But what? No. Land use, yeah. So there's currently a delivery business, a delivery food business. But if they end up taking over this extra land and turning it into outdoor dining for, I don't know who, they're going to kick out that business. So just wanted to make those two factors clear. But I am also for, so what I'm saying is, if we can make DOT clean up that area, I think that owner might be fine with that. Like maybe they don't actually really want to have to take over that land for that purpose. And just because it seems like no one cares about it now, it's all on our radar now. So it doesn't mean something can't be done about it now. They could put it in the budget.
I just wanted to say one other thing, which is that stormwater management is such a huge issue throughout this area. And it's actually a pretty changing field, how you manage stormwater, what kind of structures, what kind of infrastructure. So in addition to potential green space that's actually green, I just think it might be in the future useful to the city to own that property based on what they decide, what kind of infrastructure they decide is necessary.
Okay.
As we combat, climate.
Lisa, I'm gonna let Steve, actually, you know what? I'm gonna let Stephen Barry respond. Then Lisa's question, and then somebody called a question, please. Stephen, if you want to come off mute and turn your camera on.
Hi, can you hear and see me? Okay, let me just be brief. I just wanted to state, number one, something that I do not want to speak to any of the comments that are going forward, except for the only two comments I need to make are one, there was an individual that stated that there was a failed pizzeria business. That was not a failed pizzeria business. That is our family business, which we've owned and occupied the premises since ownership in 1989. So I just want to be very clear about that. It's not a failed business, and we have over 40 years experience in monitoring and maintaining restaurants. The other factor was the area itself. The lot itself is not accessible without crossing over our property on either 4939 Van Dam or crossing over 4965 Van Dam along Borden Avenue. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. Yeah. Lisa.
Even though this is just an action to demap, we did request an appraisal from the applicant, and we didn't get an appraisal. And it seems to me adding that much additional area of public space is almost like a gift, right? It's like and it just seems I'm against it for that reason alone. If I don't know what the value of that space is, that where he's getting from the city for X amount of dollars, how can I make an informed judgment?
Can someone call the question? All in favor of calling the question? Roll call, right?
Okay.
Oh, sorry. What is the? Now
Yes to reject.
Yes to reject, and what were all the amendments?
The motion is to disapprove the application for the demapping, only for the demapping, and the additional stipulation is that the city should properly secure and care for the property. As green, was that okay? That's part of it. As green infrastructure, that's neutral, but okay, good. I like that. All right.
All right. So yes to reject. Amparo Abalbay. Nelly Afshar. Anatol Ashraf. Anne-Marie Baranowski. Carisha Batan. Kat Bloomfield.
Yes.
Danielle Brecker, Carlos Castelcroce, Lisa Charles, Osman Chowdhury, Steve Cooper, Lisa Deller, Dr. Ross Janusas, Alexandra Gonzalez,
Yes.
Kenny Greenberg, Mohammed Hossein, Christine Hunter, Diana Kitchler, James Kim, Sheila Lewandowski, Benji Lucas,
Yes to reject.
Patrick Martinez, Tom Matutsas, Eric Narberg, Zishan Ott, Riley Owens, Maya Saab left, I believe. Yeah. Laura Shepard, me, yes. Lauren Springer, Carlo Thomas,
Yes.
Leticia Vasquez, Michael Zurab. All right. Yeah.
If you actually are serious about having them clean up that space and take care of it, we should start putting the pressure on that now. Okay.
That you should just do it. Oh, yeah. Exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Can I mention something?
Yep.
So the thing is that we specifically have asked for different agencies to manage different parcels of land for years. And the ones that we have been pushing for have been wrapped up now in the LIC rezoning, which could or could not be the will of what we discussed. And so like for us to push for it, like the channels that we have, they're very limited. And so like even if we didn't put it on, for example, the budget priority list for capital, I don't know that, like, I don't know how we would push for that. And so I just want to sort of maybe just make that comment that, yeah. I can't hear anything.
That was serious as it relates to calling upon the borough president to act on this land like he did with other DOT items called medians. He's already done that. We should call upon him to act on this land as well.
And Kat, to answer your question, I don't expect DOT to do anything.
Oh.
However, there's two things that will show. One is it may change the city's mind as to whether or not they want to give away the land or whether or not they can take care of it. Or the other option is to find a group, a not-for-profit that is willing to take over that land and make it a little pocket park. But the idea is if we said, let's not give the land away because it's too important to have the green space, then we have to try to follow it up and preserve it, even if we fail. Okay?
I understand. Thank you.
Can I just name the Western Queensland Trust? Maybe they would be interested in helping out with that. I don't know because I'm not.
Instead of naming specific groups, I feel like if the city is going to get into the business of disposing of public land, I think that there needs to be some kind of a structure and system with that based on values of what are the priorities for the city. So there should be an RFP and there should be a priority given to like nonprofits, community gardens or things like that that fits within the resiliency needs of the district, instead of having a private deal happen that's not transparent because they don't want to take care of a property.
Agreed.
I agree with Sheila.
Christine, if you want to wrap up.
I mean, we've taken care of the two committee actions, and I urge everybody to come out for the workshop as for the One LIC waterfront. And that's it. Or did you want to say something, Carla? Oh, okay.
Awesome. Yay. So yeah, go ahead.
I meant to ask the council member this, but that was moved. October 24th, the council member in the council is having a Understand the Ballot Initiatives event at the Hunters Point Library on October 24th. I can tell you what time. It is 6 to 7 p.m. Ballot Initiative educational event at the Hunters Point Library, led by the council member and the council, the speaker.
Awesome, thank you. Also, weirdly, at land use, I was the one who made the motion to reject it. Yeah, land use, and I voted for it today. So sometimes you don't feel strong enough about something. Riley, also Carlos, thank you for being mic runner. Riley, I feel like you should make a transportation committee update, and then we should wrap up.
Yeah, the news from the Transportation Committee, as I mentioned earlier, we passed a resolution supporting $5 city bike for high school and CUNY students aged 16 and over. It is something that is popular with, it just makes a lot of sense. And the more you talk about it, the more sense it makes. So we did that. The next Transportation Committee meeting falls on Election Day, so we're moving it back 1 week to the 12th of November. So please be there.
Motion to adjourn.
All the questions.
Have a good night. Thanks so much.